Good afternoon. Welcome to the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, October 10th, 2017 board meeting. Should announce right off that we do have one conference participation by phone. That would be Director Blois. So I'm calling this meeting to order, and before we begin, I would like everyone to stand. I would like for us to have a moment of silence to honor the victims of the Las Vegas shooting. Today, we remember the 58 people who lost their lives and 489 wounded during this horrific event, and the names of the deceased are up on the screen. Thank you. Now we'll have the invocation by Marcia Ferreira, Associate Resource Specialist, Water Resource Management, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Director Mark Gold.
Thank you, Chairman Record and members of the board. I'm honored to provide the invocation for your board meeting today. As the mother of a young girl, I constantly think about what I should teach her, how I should prepare her for the future. I want her to be strong, yet gentle and kind. I also want her to be persistent in finding solutions when difficult problems arise. Not because she's the smartest person in the room, but because the room is full of smart people. And together, with collaboration, she can find intelligent solutions that take into account multiple perspectives. Knowing when to seek advice and assistance is fundamental. The bigger the problem, the more complicated the solution. It requires interdisciplinary expertise and collaboration for multiple groups. We tend to prefer working with people like us because it is comfortable, because it is what we know. However, what works for us might not work for others. It might not work for people that are different from us, and it might not work for future generations. As members of this board, you exemplify interdisciplinary and collaborative approaches to tackling complex problems, and you follow in the footsteps of those before you. Your predecessors were asked to make decisions on behalf of their constituents and for the generations of today. Because of their actions, today we have the Colorado River Aqueduct and the State Water Project. In recent years, this board has been involved in extraordinary decisions regarding demand management and local resources development. These important decisions will be part of your legacy. Today and in the coming months, your board will consider actions that are just as significant as those your predecessors experienced. May your decisions be graced with an interdisciplinary view of the problem to reach a solution that will serve the broader public and future generations. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So Director Morris, would you administer the roll call, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please touch the screen when it is available to register your presence? Director Blois, are you with us?
I am with us.
Chairman Record, you do have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 4 is opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. I have a number of speaker cards. If you haven't filled one out yet and wish to speak, please do so. I would ask that you respect the board and other speakers and keep your comments to within 3 minutes. Also, if you're with a group, would appreciate it if you have one person speak for the group. And on a personal note, whatever you happen to say is amplified by the brevity of your remarks in my mind. So we will start with Christine Murray, followed by Ron Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. As a former member of this board and as a current member of the Southern California Water Committee and as a council member for the largest city in Orange County and the 10th largest in the state of California, I'm here today to ask for your support for staff's recommendation to proceed with the state water fix. This is an historic opportunity to serve our communities in real, tangible ways that will affect the quality of life for generations of people living in California. This decision has the same level of cost concerns and levels of opposition from various stakeholders, political divisions, and other issues at play as many of our predecessors dealt with when they took similar votes to approve the infrastructure that we rely on every day. We can't afford, it has taken decades to get to this point today, and we can't afford to wait decades longer to approve the infrastructure that is desperately needed now. It has taken so long to get to this point, and so many people have been in the mix. The environmental work has been done, the homework's been done. We know that this is the best direction to move forward for the state of California, and we can't afford to wait longer. No one disagrees the current system is vulnerable, that it causes undue burden on our ecosystems, and that it puts many millions at risk if it fails. I respectfully ask for your support of this state water fix. Future generations and future leaders will be indebted to you. I will be indebted to you now as my family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, and many millions of Californians who are the first and foremost responsibility of our service. So I thank you. I know brevity is key today. You have many people who are going to speak, but as your former colleague, I wanted to take the time, even though my family's been evacuated from the recent fires, I wanted to come down here today and express my sincere support for this action and for this historic vote today. I do think is instrumental to the future of our state, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ron Miller, followed by Saul Renteria.
Good morning. I'm Ron Miller, Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades. I'm here on behalf of over 400,000 construction workers in the state of California today. Today we're also with our brothers and sisters in Northern California and Southern California fighting the deadly wildfires. Our support is with them. California is a great state. It's the world's 6th largest economy, but with this opportunity comes great challenges. We have to give as good as we get in California. We must build and create the infrastructure for our state to survive and for our residents to flourish. We must be prepared for drought one year, heavy rains the next, an earthquake or two along the way, and the overall effects of climate change and a growing population. With all these challenges, the California Water Fix is exactly that. It will repair our water delivery system in California. It will update it for current era and into the future. It will help ensure the health of our state. The water fix can't make it rain, can't make it snow. It can't stop climate change either. But it can enable us to do a better job of handling the water we do have and not to waste it. We support stormwater recapture, conservation, recycling, desalination, but we need basic, assured way to make sure that the water gets to Southern California in the first place. The water fix is a huge technological and engineering challenge. California has the talent to design it, and for construction we have more than 400 skilled members to build it up and down the state. What we need is the buy-in from your water district and in turn that of your ratepayers. And those ratepayers are all of us, working people supporting our families, many of them here today, who want good, clean, safe water for our communities. Our members live in every one of your cities of your district. That's really what we're here for. California is a land of opportunity, but it's a land of challenges as well. We're in the building trades here to support the California Water Fix, and we urge you to vote for it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Saul Renteria, followed by Shomari Davis.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Saul Renteria. I'm the Public Affairs Director for the Southern California District Council of Laborers. The Laborers District Council proudly represents 30,000 laborers across Southern California, stretching from Kern County to Arizona down to the Mexican border. The members that you see standing behind me are from LA County, Ventura County, San Diego County, Orange County, Imperial and Riverside County. On behalf of Southern California District Council of Laborers and our leader, Armando Esparza, we are here today to express our strong support for California Water Fix and encourage you, the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, and leaders throughout this state to do the same. We must move this project forward to protect our water supply. Water is essential to our physical health and well-being. It's the lifeblood and a fundamental need. While Southern Californians have the right to clean and reliable water supply, the delivery system is moving water to our region is old, vulnerable, and in desperate need of improvement. For all these reasons and much more, we ask you to support the Water Fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone wanting to applaud, but if we can keep that to a minimum, that would really move things along. Shamari Davis, followed by Lisa Tucker.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Shamari Davis. I'm a business representative for IBEW, Local 11 Electricians Union here in Los Angeles County, and I'm here to express IBEW Local 11's strong support for the Water Fix project. California's infrastructure has been greatly deteriorating. For many years, we've been placing Band-Aids on the issues. The reality is all these small fixes cannot and will not meet up to the challenges we are facing today. Our members in the Metropolitan Ward Supervisors Association who supervise, operate, and administer MWD's facilities can attest to the need of this important project. The Water Fix project is long overdue. This project will fix aging infrastructure and provide a comprehensive and permanent solution in reliably supplying water to tens of millions of water users in Southern California without negatively impacting residents and the environment. And just like your mission statement says, in an environmentally and economically responsible way, we want to provide water for its users. We support this project, and we encourage all the members of the board at MWD to support this project in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lisa Tucker, followed by Barbara Berrigan-Perea.
Hi, my name is Lisa Tucker, and I'm a consumer advocate with Consumer Watchdog. I'm here to ask that you all vote against this Water Fix, and I'm particularly addressing the Los Angeles members of this body. If the mayor's appointees go ahead and vote yes today, and this really is the day of reckoning, I think it's going to bear how the public's business is often done, too often done, which I believe is in favor of corporate interests. If you vote yes, it's because the mayor very much wished for you to do so. And it will not be a vote in the interest of Los Angeles ratepayers. It will be in the interest of corporations, such as the wonderful company, such as Goldman Sachs, interested in financing projects like this, in the interests of Bechtel, interested in engineering. It will be in the interests of Coca-Cola and Anheuser-Busch, who are huge users of water in the state, though of course dwarfed by the wonderful company, which uses more water than all of Los Angeles combined. That is going to be who benefits from this project. And it will actually mean even less money available to ratepayers to pay for their water and for us to invest in the sort of measures that really would determine the ability of Los Angeles to become more sustainable and actually more water secure, because we aren't going to be able to do everything here in Los Angeles. We need $1 billion just to fix our broken pipes and all the rest of our infrastructure down here. We need that money to put into water recycling and to other projects that are already on track. Down here in Los Angeles, we're on track to slash the amount of water we're using in half. That we are importing right now in large amounts. And so in order to really be water secure, we need to be focusing on what Los Angeles can do in order to wean itself off of that kind of water project. So the mayor was elected by the people, and he should be acting accordingly, and he should be recommending that his appointees, act in the interests of the ratepayers. And if he can't, I would hope that the Los Angeles members of this esteemed body do the right thing and act really in favor of the ratepayers that we really ought to be championing first. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Berrigan-Perea, followed by John Hanna.
Good afternoon, Chair, Record, and Board members. Barbara Berrigan-Perea with Restore the Delta. The effort to push the Delta tunnels on Californians by Metropolitan Water District Governor Brown and special interest construction unions who realize that, or don't realize that, they're not going to receive most of the jobs that will go to foreign firms. We believe that basically what's being pushed today is akin to what was done to the Owens Valley. Regardless of the outcome from today's vote, the Delta tunnels, however, will never be built, and let me explain why. The Department of Water Resources and the Bureau of Reclamation do not have a water right in order to change the point of diversion, and they won't be able to prove so in front of the State Water Resources Control Board. The petitioners carry the burden of proof at the State Water Board to not cause injury to any Delta water rights holder as a result of moving the Delta intakes. They will not be able to prove no injury. Regardless of what Director Keitlinger says regarding Westlands, the project has a $7 billion hole in funding because not one Central Valley project contractor has agreed to pay for the project. Environmental groups will continue litigation. The state and federal audits will not be overlooked by bond guarantors, who will expect to see a full financial detailed record and plan. What's so sad about the way the board has circled the wagons is that a tremendous amount of time, talent, and resources are being squandered for a nostalgic effort to recreate a big water project of the last century. Many of the best minds that work in water in California will spend years fighting this project until it is stopped, instead of working with you to lead the way on water projects that will serve the public interest. This is the last gasp of an unsustainable, environmentally destructive way of managing California's water supply. We urge you for a no vote. We urge you to work with people in the Delta and to create real solutions so that you can have a sustainable yield of water and so that we can begin protecting the Delta, protecting the San Francisco Bay, and making sure that water distribution is equitable throughout California. Thank you.
Thank you. John Hanna, followed by John Myrie.
Good morning. John Hanna, Governmental Affairs Director for the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. I just want to say all the people who stood up when Ron Miller was here and all the people that are standing up now who are carpenters, those people aren't special interest. These people are the working class of this community. We represent 30,000 carpenters in Southern California, including 5,000 from San Diego. And we are not special interest. We are not corporations. We are the people that build this community. And what we're looking for today is this board to support option 1 on agenda 8.4. And that is to support the California water fix. We support this not because it's going to be a lot of jobs for carpenters. There won't be a lot. It'll be mostly other trades. But we're doing it because it's of economic security for our area, because it's the best option to ensure an adequate and reliable water supply for tens of millions of people who reside in Southern California and the millions who come here and visit. We live in a semi-arid area whose local water supply simply cannot sustain the people who reside here and the people who come to visit and work here. Almost 85% of our water is imported and 30% flows through the Delta, which as it's configured now is not environmentally sustainable, in part due to the people who live up in the Delta and over hundreds of years have degraded that system. But it's precarious. Water deliveries are halted, many times for the fish protection, and this results in unreliable deliveries and a stoppage of water, and the water flows out to the Pacific. More significantly, and this is real important, as you know, there's a high probability by the year 2050 that there, either because of a major earthquake or other environmental disaster resulting from global warming, there will be a failure of those delta levees, resulting in a loss of 30% of our water for 6 months to 2 years. The resulting economic recession will make the 2008-2009 recession pale in comparison. I served on the Metropolitan Water District's Blue Ribbon Committee a few years ago, and along with Gary Tobin. And we studied imported water, the Delta tunnels, recycling, desal, gray water, and all the options. And we concluded that all of the above are needed and necessary to meet the growing demands of our people, and that only by doing all of the above can we continue to grow the economy to support our people. We can't let naysayers take us back to a time where we are not willing to invest in our area. In the 30s, in the 20s, we invested in Southern California.
You need to wrap up, please.
All right, so please, no further delays. Governor Brown noted that this project's been studied for longer than any other public project, and I think the LA Times said it best in its editorial supporting the California water fix. Southern California, stop waffling over the Delta tunnels and start digging.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Myers, followed by Floyd Smith.
My name's John Mirish, and I serve on the Beverly Hills City Council. My comments reflect my own position, though our council is supportive of the California water fix. Beverly Hills is actively looking to and working to expand our own water portfolio, making significant investments, and we believe a variety of measures, including conservation, is important for the future. Yes, an all of the above approach also means having reliable access to water from the Sierras, and the water fix is a long overdue infrastructure upgrade. Make no mistake about it, much of the opposition to the plan is rooted in regional self-interest and narrow-mindedness. While sports-based rivalries, including anti-Dodger sentiment, can be in good fun, there is nothing fun about the hypocritical and self-serving groups and individuals who refer to the Metropolitan Board as the Politburo and call us colonizers because of our efforts to share in the waters of our state, as is our right as Californians. This attitude may be hard for us to understand, but as noted political consultant Bill Carrick remarked, we're not as parochial as Northern Californians. The irony here is that the tunnels would be paid for by the ratepayers, while the Delta farmers want the taxpayers of the entire state to finance their unsustainable way of life by paying for an aging and near obsolete system of levees. These provincial interests view water, which doesn't originate in the Delta but from the Sierras, as theirs, and also view the taxpayer dollars generated from Southern California, home to almost 2/3 of the state's population, as theirs as well. They bring to mind the Talmud's archetype of the wicked person who says, "What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine." Like the parochial opposition to the peripheral canal decades ago, anti-Southern Californian bigotry now threatens our ability to secure our water supply. Climate change makes these important infrastructure upgrades more necessary than ever. No, the water fix is not cheap, but further delay in creating reliable access to our water will ultimately end up costing us more. Most of you are undoubtedly too young to remember the classic Fram oil filter commercial from the 70s. You can pay me now, or you can pay me later. Perhaps these parochialists who would deny our right to the water of our own state are pushing us in the direction of forming a separate state. And maybe that's something we should eventually consider. But in the meantime, even though, to quote Beverly Hills resident Taylor Swift, haters gonna hate, we can't let the bigots turn off the spigots. Right now, we are all Californians, not colonizers. And despite the chutzpah of some of our Northern California neighbors, we have just as much right to our water in the state as any other Californians. So let's come together and show the same spirit as when Metropolitan was formed in 1928, with my city as a founding member. Now as then, it's time for Southern California to secure our water future. Oh, and one more thing. How about them Dodgers?
Let me repeat myself. I would appreciate it if you show respect to the board and to other speakers. So let's just keep our comments down, please. Now we'll go to Floyd Smith, followed by Clarence Moore.
First of all, I want to first thank Ms. Wilson from Central Basin Water District and Metropolitan Water District for the water inspection this weekend in Sacramento, California. I learned a lot. Thank you very much, and the board for supplying everything for us. I want to thank y'all. Good afternoon. My name is Floyd Smith. I'm with Midland Park Water Trust, groundwater supply in Los Angeles County. I want to talk about earthquake, bring terror, destruction, and destroy lives, i.e., when an earthquake strikes, we don't know it's going to be a 6 or 8. It is enough to contaminate, destroy our drinking water system because the ocean water will come then come on land with salt and destroy agriculture, water supply, native fishes, animals, food supply, and human life. Tunnels will save our most precious source for living in the great state of California. Let's set aside money and scientific analysis and look at human beings, children, parents, family, agriculture, native fishes, farms, homes, and business, i.e. Where do the human beings go from here? We will have to die because some people's entity want to oppose our protection of life that was here before they arrived. Build the tunnels. Everything else has not worked. The U.S. Treasury is not going to run out of money. It will save human life, our water supply, native fishes, agriculture, farms, home, and business, and i.e. In closing, tunnel prevention, drinking water supply. We need community education, community water touring trips for all the cities in this state to understand how the water system and agriculture, how the tunnels will support the water supply to all of California to have life, peace, and happiness to all human beings, agriculture, farms, animals, native fishes, homes, and business, i.e., in this great state of California. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Clarence Moore, followed by Steve Correa.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Clarence Moore, and I'm a resident of the city of Los Angeles. And I've been attending several of these meetings regarding this California water fix, and I'm here to urge you to vote no. As a resident, and because I'm a minister, a pastor, I work with low-income families, and for you to vote yes would put a burden on these families. I hear what people say about, how it's going to improve the water, but find another way. Don't do a rate increase. Find another way. Like you said, this is a great state of California, and I'm proud to be a resident, proud to live here. But for you to burden people that are already struggling is ridiculous. It has no point, none, to put another tax on someone who can barely buy food, who are struggling out here. And if you do a survey, you'll find out what I'm telling you now is true. All this other stuff, I'm not going to get into that. I'm just specifically speaking about families that are struggling. And for you to do an increase of a DWP bill or water bill on them, that's ridiculous. These are human. And I like what we say every time we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Justice for all. Not some, justice for all. Thank you.
Steve Correa, followed by Sarah Patricia Hueso.
Hello, members of the board. Thank you for taking the time to listen to everybody here. It means a lot that you can have an open mind and you haven't made your decision yet. California's had a need of water for a long time. We've had a historic drought. There was no rain, and there's also been fires that go along with that. We do need water. The thing is, there's places we can save water where we waste a lot of water we don't need to, and that's in agriculture. They use a lot of water. They use a gallon for each almond. They also use a lot for pistachios and alfalfa. And that's what this tunnel project is about, is getting water to places where there doesn't need to be water, to agriculture businesses, for billionaires to get even more money. And so they're going to use water, but they're also going to use money, which we don't want to spend on that, because it's wrong, because we need water here, not over there, to grow cash crops. The project's going to cost between $17 and $67 billion, and it's going to come from us. And we don't think that's right because we don't get any benefit from it. It's going to come from our rate hikes on the water bills, and it's going to come from property taxes. We don't think it's right. I asked, especially the people appointed by Mayor Garcetti, to consider this and vote no on the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Patricia Hueso, followed by Martha Camacho Rodriguez.
Good morning, board members. I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about honesty, integrity, and legacy. You are all here appointed to serve the residents, to protect the water of the residents, and to look out for their best interest. We, in good faith, ask you to vote no on this project. You need to consider not just Beverly Hills, not just San Diego, not just these union members that are paid to be here today. You need to consider the residents that are here that are not getting paid, that are here because they are concerned that their water rates are going to be even higher than they already are. You need to consider people from cities like Paramount, like Compton, like Linwood, like Southgate, where they're making an estimate of $40,000 a year. You need to consider those people. You need to consider that rents are getting higher every day, that it's harder for people to put food on the table, that they have to decide whether to pay this bill or another. The cost of living is rising, but the wages aren't increasing at the same rate. Please take into account all those people that are not here, that could not be here because they are working 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Take them into account and decide what legacy you will leave behind for them. Please vote no on the California water fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha Camacho Rodriguez, followed by Charming Evelyn.
Good morning. I'll be brief. I just wanted to remind everybody sitting here who were appointed to represent our communities. Fortunately, I live in a community of Downey that does not rely on importing water, so we have access to our own. One of the questions that I asked at several of the Central Water Basin meetings was that as a community of not relying on importing water, would our water rates increase? Or would we be exempt from having to pay more for water that we don't need or would obviously not get? The thing that really disappoints me is that it appears that a lot of you have not read the independent auditor's report, where it clearly states that there are a lot of reasons why these tunnels cannot go through. I appreciate our union brothers and sisters here, but unless they move to Fresno or the Central Valley, they're not going to get jobs to build that tunnel. And so it's a lie. Stop lying. People need to stop lying, and you need to read that report. If you are acting in good faith, you will vote no. Taxation without hydration should be a crime. Thank you.
Thank you. Charming Evelyn, followed by Yvonne Watson.
Hello to the board. I'm Charming Evening, and today I'm representing Sierra Club, California. I am the chair of the Water Committee for Los Angeles and Orange County. There are many reasons why we actually oppose California Water Fix, and we've been opposing it for 4 years. I have been here before, standing at this very podium, asking you to vote no. And I do respect the union members here today. We agree you have a job to do, but that job should not be up north. That job should be here. There are many projects that need to be fixed right here. Let us support our local projects. We have a water recycling project that MWD would like to do. We have sent a letter saying that we support that project. Let's work on that project. Let us spend money on the Las Virgenes water recycling project, on the Burbank water recycling project, on cleaning up the water in San Fernando Valley. That is what we need to support, not the tunnels. Why don't we put money to restoring the levees, not those tunnels? California needs $44.5 billion for infrastructure. That infrastructure is not just the tunnels. These are the leaking pipes that we have every day. We can spend more money on conservation. And for the poorer among us, MWD has enough money for them to have subsidies. Give subsidies to the poorest among us. Help them pay their water bills. They are the ones who are suffering the most. And in regards to someone who said that there is no environmental damage from this project, let me assure you, the salmon and the Delta smelt will think differently. There is a lot of damage that will be done to the environment if we continue with this project. Sierra Club is also suing DWR. Why are we suing? Because the modeling used, the calcium-2 modeling used is incorrect. Please take the time to read the auditor's report. Climate change will be around soon. When we have a drought, there will be no more water coming from the Delta. So do not be fooled by a lot of what you're hearing today. Please educate yourself. The information is out there, and we support all the alternatives to the tunnels. Conservation is the number one. If Los Angeles uses the same amount of water it does today as it did in the 70s, people, we are not using more water. We use less, and that is because of conservation. Your second biggest saver of water is water recycling. We must, it is imperative that we support our water recycling projects. And let us educate everyone. Education is key. There are many things money can go towards. Gray water capture, stormwater capture. Let us invest in those projects, and let us give everyone a job. All of those union members can get a job if we support our local projects right here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yvonne Watson, followed by Ruby Guillen.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Yvonne Martinez Watson. I am a Latina. I am from the city of Montebello. And I can tell you right now, if it wasn't for Sierra Club, I wouldn't even have known about the California Water Fix, because I don't believe any kind of outreach was done in my city, and I especially don't think any kind of outreach was done to the Latino community there. I'm here today to represent Sierra Club, Angeles chapter, which is all of Orange County and Los Angeles County. This project is a bad project for the environment. You've already heard my colleague tell you why. I just want to repeat that it's going to put a terrible strain on an ecosystem in the Bay Area that is already at risk right now. And it doesn't make any sense to try to take water away from that area. It is not wasted. It is a natural environment that needs to have that fresh water to flush it out every now and then. If you take more water, that's not going to happen. So this is a very bad project for the environment. It's bad for the environment here in Southern California as well, because if this project is built, it will mean that here in Southern California we will become even more dependent on imported water instead of becoming less dependent. I also want to say that this is an environmental justice issue. It's an environmental justice issue for the people in Northern California, in the Bay Delta area, and it is an environmental justice issue here in our area. Because, again, you've heard over and over again, the people that are going to suffer the most are the people who can least afford to pay for this project. Now, I'm shaking right now because I'm really, really angry at some of the things that I've heard today. I am an unpaid volunteer. You want to know what the Sierra Club looks like? You want to know what a special interest looks like? You take a look at me. I have been coming to these meetings over and over and over again. I don't get paid 1 cent. When I come here, I take public transportation. I wonder how many people standing behind me right now can say the same thing. Now, I want you to be sure. My colleague that you just heard right now, she's also a volunteer. She doesn't get paid to do this. And I find it very disturbing when I hear people get up here and use words like colonial and parochial. And this is California? Do you know what those words mean to people of color? Especially those like me who care about the environment, who care about the poor, who care about the needy. I want you to think really hard about who is supporting this project. And I'm urging you right now, vote no on the California water fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruby Guillen, followed by Raquel Espinoza. Is Ruby Guillen here?
Good morning, board members. Since there were no translators available for today's meeting, I am going to try to translate for her. Just bear with me. I'm not a professional, but I'm going to do my best.
Sí, buenos días. Mi nombre es Raquel Espinosa y soy activista de Campton.
Good morning. My name is Raquel Espinosa, and I am an activist in Compton.
¿Por qué no se nos informó a la comunidad de dicho voto?
I want to know why my community was not informed about this voting.
Por favor, digan no al voto.
Please vote no.
Nos parece algo ridículo pagar por unos túneles que no nos van a beneficiar en nada.
I find it ridiculous that we're going to have to pay for these tunnels that are not going to benefit us in any way.
Violando los contratos están violando los contratos y las leyes.
You are violating the contracts and the laws.
Los túneles perjudicarían a decenas de peces nativos.
The tunnels would affect and harm dozens of fish.
El costo del proyecto costó más de 60 mil millones.
The project will cost more than $60 billion.
El proyecto costó más de 60 mil millones que nunca fue dado a conocer.
A project that's going to cost $60 billion that we did not know about.
Los agricultores no pueden irrigar sus cultivos con agua salada.
The agriculturists cannot water their crops with salted water.
Y ciertamente no pueden plantar en el suelo contaminado.
And they can't plant their crops in contaminated soil.
Si vives en un área que depende de agua que ha sido exportada,
if you live in an area that is dependent on exported water,
como las zonas metropolitanas de Los Ángeles y San José,
areas such as Los Angeles and San Jose,
tus tarifas de agua y impuestos prediales van a aumentar.
Your water rate and your property taxes will increase.
Pero nunca recibirán agua nueva.
But we will not receive any additional water.
Nuestra misión es salvar el santuario de Delta y la bahía de San Francisco.
We want to save the Delta from the San Francisco Bay.
Para nuestros hijos, nietos y futuras generaciones.
For our children, grandchildren, and future generations.
Lucharemos por un delta con aguas en donde se pueda pescar, nadar y beber.
We will fight for a delta with waters where you can fish, swim, drink, and you can cultivate.
Cultivar y sean aptos para favorecer a la salud.
To cultivate and to be for the health of the salud.
Del santuario de la bahía de San Francisco y el oeste del océano.
Save the delta.
La bahía del San Francisco y el océano. Voten no, por favor.
Please vote
no.
no.
Comments from
Gracias.
the crowd. She's
Thank
speaking.
you.
She has extra time. Thank you. I've been informed that if you have a translator, you get double time. So let's please be respectful to everyone. Raquel Espinosa, followed by Daryl Gale. Raquel Espinosa? Okay, I'm sorry about that. Daryl Gale, followed by Gerald Serta.
Hi, I'm Daryl Gale, a Los Angeles resident, and I'll be brief. There's been so many really eloquent speakers. Since I'm a Los Angeles resident, I'm basically talking to the Los Angeles contingent. I've been here many times. I've said many of the same things. I don't see how this expensive project is going to help Los Angeles. Why do we have the right to even take more water from the northern part of the state? And let's give jobs to local people. And I know you're all hungry and tired and want to take a break probably, so I'll shut up now, but please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Serta, followed by Brenna Norton.
Good afternoon. My name is Gerald Serta. I'm also a resident of Paramount, and I just want to mention that we've had tax increase in our city. It's a small community. We had tax increases. We had sanitation increases. We have property tax money that's being used to other cities from our city. We have schools that are being built or are opening in another city from our city, and that raises concern. Why are our property taxes being used for other communities? It makes you think, if this is happening to a small community, small city with that kind of budget, what's going to happen with the big monies once this project, if it gets underway? What's going to happen to that money? Is it also going to be mismanaged? My concern is the taxation. We're being taxed and we're feeling it. Yes, the hourly income was increased, but we also had the groceries increase. We had the rent increase, so we feel that. And It's not something small because it does affect, but even the license for dogs, that also has increased. So it makes you wonder if there's going to be taxation, more taxes, higher taxes for this project, maybe we should tax accordingly, according to the income. If the big industry investors want this project, want to invest money, let's tax accordingly. And if you're making less money, like our city of Paramount, of a medium of $50,000 a year, let's look at that also. But at this time, this project should be a no. No to California water fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenna Norton, followed by Wes May.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. My name is Brenna Norton, Senior Organizer with Food and Water Watch. Food and Water Watch represents about 100,000 members across California. A lot here in Southern California opposed to the tunnel project. Every environmental group in the state is opposed to this project, every fishing group, the largest labor union in LA County, SEIU 7-1, representing the majority of union members here in LA County that would benefit from local investment and local jobs. SoCal residents would be burdened with higher water bills and taxes for this controversial project, which won't bring them any more water. Metropolitan's potential partners, Westlands and Kern County Water Agency, represent California's biggest agricultural and oil corporations, including Stuart Resnick's wonderful company, which has amassed a thirsty almond and pistachio empire in the desert. 70% of the water from the Delta goes to Big Ag, 70%. Follow the money. Follow the money, follow the money on this project, and you will see who wants more water from the Delta and who already gets the majority of the water from the Delta. It's pretty simple. Follow the money. Metropolitan Water District aims to become the chief financial sponsor of this project, but SoCal residents would not get any water or benefit. Met's points about local and regional water supplies being more expensive is a joke. Every established PhD research study in the state of California shows unanimously that investing in stormwater and local supplies is way more affordable for LA residents. But in the end, you can't compare these things. You can't compare these things because local supplies would actually produce new water, unlike the tunnels. For instance, LA County Public Works and others estimate 100 to 200,000 acre feet of new water from capturing stormwater, another 100 to 2,000 acre feet in recycled water. So again, you can't compare these things. One would produce new water. In addition, there's only so much you can increase people's water bills and taxes, even if these are $2. $2 here, $5 here to fix our pipes, $5 here, $5. People are struggling to afford their bills. You need to make investments that are proven and will actually produce new water and benefits. In closing, I agree with Michael Hillsack from the LA Times. This project is stumbling to its deathbed, and I don't think you can save it today. Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Wes May, followed by Bruce Resnick.
Mr. President and directors, I'm Wes May with the Engineering Contractors Association. Our group of contractors does heavy underground installation of water and sewer lines, wet dry utilities, sewage treatment plants, water treatment plants in Southern California. We work closely with these gentlemen behind me, the operators, the laborers, the teamsters, the carpenters, the cement masons, and we know that they're not at a different level. They're at a social economic level. They need the jobs. They need the work. One of the things that, and we strongly urge that you support the California water fix. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank this board over the years for its leadership. I want to thank Jerry Brown and Pat Brown for their leadership, because without their leadership and their commitment to what they've done for this state, the sixth largest economy in the world, and half the people of the state of California live south of Wilshire Boulevard here, half these people, if we hadn't had that leadership, your leadership and the governor's leadership, half the people wouldn't be in this room. We wouldn't have the economic opportunities that we have, and we wouldn't have the legacy that we currently have and appreciate for our children and our grandchildren. Again, the Engineering Contractors Association strongly supports the California water fix. We know it's needed. Thank you.
By Jessica Salins. Mr. Resnick, are you still with us? And let's go to Jessica Salins, followed by Maria Elena Lamas.
Mr. Resnick was supposed to grace us with his presence, huh? That's interesting. First of all, let me say that it's a language injustice that Met doesn't have their materials translated into Spanish, nor have someone here to translate, so that would be something to work toward for the future. I think we can all agree on that. Is everyone enjoying this political theater today? My background is in theater as an actor, director, and producer, and I have never experienced a play that I liked less than today. You all know how you're going to vote today. I wish what I said mattered. I wish that what residents said mattered to you. But we know how this works. You sit in rooms, you talk with the governor, you talk with each other. There's no outreach that happens to the communities. We come talk to you at City Council. You take our folders. You don't read the materials we present to you. You listen to Met. You don't look at the independent analysis. Or if you do, it doesn't factor into those meetings that you're taking. Southern California ratepayers who do know about this project don't want it. To honor this political theater that we're seeing today, the stand-ups, the sit-downs, the big trades, the residents who don't make any money being here today, I wanted to read something from my favorite play, Julius Caesar. The abuse of greatness is when it destroys remorse from power. But 'tis a common proof that lowliness is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber upward turns his face, but whence he once attains the utmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, looks in the clouds, scorning the base degrees by which he did ascend. So Caesar may, so Met may. I still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to finish my comments with this. Southern California water ratepayers do not support the Delta tunnels. The business interests that speak on behalf of the project to echo back at WMD board what it wants to hear do not represent real people in our communities. But regardless of the vote today, this is just the beginning of ratepayer advocacy. Metropolitan will no longer be able to stay in the shadows and avoid public accountability. We will demand transparency and accountability of how ratepayer money will be spent on the Delta Tunnels project. If you vote yes today, we will see you in court. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please, I'm going to ask you again, be respectful of everyone here today. Jessica Salins, followed by Maria Elena Lamas.
That was her.
Oh, that was her. Maria Elena Lamas, please, followed by Kimberly Martin.
Again, I'm going to try to translate for her since there's no translator available. Thank you.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es María Elena Lamas y vengo de la ciudad de Canton.
Good morning. My name is Maria Elena Lamas, and I come from Compton.
Vengo a hacer hincapié y acto de presencia en este recinto público como activista y miembro de la organización FWW.
I'm making presence as an activist and as a member of, what is it?
La organización FWW.
FWW.
Para clamar justicia.
To ask for justice.
Abogar por el elemento más preciado de sobrevivencia.
To protect the element most necessary for survival.
Que es el agua.
That is water.
Para exponer nuestro desacuerdo.
To expose our disagreement.
Del nuevo proyecto millonario.
With this new project, this billionaire new project.
La construcción de túneles subterráneos.
The construction of the Delta tunnels.
Y de los daños y efectos que causaría.
And the harms and effects that it would cause.
Al estuario del Delta y de la Bahía de San Francisco.
To the Delta and the San Francisco Bay.
A la corriente marina.
To the oceans.
Al medio ambiente.
To the environment.
A la agricultura.
To agriculture.
A la mano de obra laboral.
To the labor.
La pesca.
To the fisheries.
El turismo.
Tourism.
y todo a la explotación de los recursos naturales
and the exploitation of the resources
y medio ambiente
and the environment
y calidad de agua.
and the quality of water.
El propósito es desestabilizar
The purpose is to unstabilize
la economía.
the economy.
Yo quiero hacer una sugerencia
I'd like to make a suggestion
que en este día piensen
that this day you think about
y tomen conciencia
and make conscience
de tomar una decisión correcta.
to make a correct decision.
Porque la decisión tiene que ser individualmente,
Because the decision should be individual,
sin ser manipulada,
without being manipulated,
y para que no se adhieran a la complicidad
and not to be an accomplice
y corrupción que existe
with the corruption that exists
dentro del ámbito político,
in the political environment,
laboral
labor,
y burócratas.
and bureaucracy.
Lo único que quiero decir que por favor
Lastly, I would like to say
todos los que están aquí pensemos en los daños y efectos que va a causar este proyecto
that everybody here takes into account the damage that this could cause
a la comunidad pobre.
to the poor community.
Supuestamente no hubo una información correcta
There was no information given to us.
para tomar esa decisión. Nuestra comunidad es la que debe aprobar esta propuesta, no los representantes, no los políticos. La comunidad es la que va a pagar de sus propios bolsillos para enriquecer los bolsillos de los burócratas y ricos millonarios.
You need to vote in favor of our community, not into the wealthy.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, you want to make a comment about translators?
Yes, thank you very much, members of the public. You're under the Brown Act, you're supposed to let us know if you need a translator, and please do that. We have a translator on staff who's prepared to do that. All the materials that have been put out on our website are in multiple languages, including Spanish as well. So we have had that available to the public. And our translators here, please put on your card or ask for the translator to staff at the front. Thank you very much.
Kimberly Martin, followed by Craig Berry. Kimberly Martin. Let's go to Craig Berry, followed by Esperanza Vielma.
Yeah, hi, my name's Greg Berry, and I'm a LA resident and a retired union plumber. And I just want to say, I request a no vote on the tunnels. We need to. We have a failing infrastructure. I've worked on failing infrastructure for over 40 years, and I know that we need to repair what's here. They talked about an earthquake. Well, if an earthquake happens here, we're not going to get the water that's over there because our infrastructure is going to fall apart. So if we don't take care of what we have here first, we don't learn to recapture the water that we have to serve our community, we don't need to, we don't need to pay taxes to serve somebody else's community or special interests. They talk about special interests that these big corporations that are going to get the money from our paying the taxes. So if people would do the research, they would actually find out where the money's coming from. I mean, they want money to come from us, but where the money's going to go is to big corporations, and it's not going to help the people that need the water and the people that can't afford to pay the taxes. So I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Esperanza Vielma, followed by Doug Obiji.
Good morning. My name is Esperanza Vielma. I'm the Environmental Justice Director for Restore the Delta and the Vice President of the Environmental Justice Coalition for Water, the Vice President for the Chicano Latino Alumni Association of UC Berkeley. Over the weekend, independent economist Dr. Jeff Michael wrote of the LA Times editorial regarding the Delta tunnels. Quote, one might expect some thoughtful discussion of ratepayer effects and how to pay the colossal costs. This is especially true given that Los Angeles has the highest level of poverty of any big city in the United States. With the enormous and rising cost of living for Los Angeles households, the largest contributor to the city's biggest crisis, unquote. Dr. Jeffrey Michael's point was that the LA Times failed to think through what residents in Los Angeles could truly afford for water. Well, the same can be said of the MWD board. Without a survey of the environmental justice community to see what they can afford in terms of water rate increases, a financial plan, and a cost-benefit analysis, this board is poised to vote for a project that will result in price gouging of California's most vulnerable families. Like Los Angeles, Stockton is the sixth most economically distressed large city in the United States. Contains a population that can't afford water bills. The state failed to conduct an environmental justice survey of Stockton to look at the economic impacts from the project as well as other Delta communities. Our environmental justice community will suffer the same fate as the communities of Los Angeles if this project is built. However, the environmental justice water communities throughout California are uniting, and MWD will not be able to move ahead with this project without constant scrutiny by its local ratepayers here and water users in the Delta of the San Joaquin Valley. Also, please note that Mayor Garcetti, now in Sacramento, currently opposes the project as it is now. Today, we are putting the Metropolitan Board on notice. The environmental justice opposition to the tunnels is just beginning, and we have all the time we need. We will move to oppose the project through every litigation point possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Obigi, followed by Richard Lambros.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, board members, staff, members of the public. My name is Doug Obigi. I'm a senior attorney with the Natural Resources Defense Council, which has 3 million members and activists, 400,000 of whom live in both Southern and Northern California. And I grew up in Southern California. My family is here. I now live in Northern California. And I know that the tunnels are an emotional issue. They are a difficult issue for this board to wrestle with. And I want to extend my personal thanks to all of the board members who have wrestled with this personally, who haven't made their minds up based on innuendo and based on fear, but really are thinking about the issue. This is a tough issue. Unfortunately, in NRDC's view, the current proposal is not consistent with MET's mission to provide water that is both affordable and in an environmentally sustainable manner. The California Water Fix project is worse than the status quo in the Delta. It makes things worse for the thousands of salmon fishermen who were off the water entirely in 2008 and 2009, whose livelihoods are at risk. It worsens water quality in the Delta for both farmers, for communities, and for fish and wildlife. For Southern California, it diverts billions of dollars away from sustainable solutions. Your member agencies are already planning to buy less water from the Delta, dramatically less water than what MET expects in its own IRP. We have an opportunity today to set Southern California, to set all of California on a more sustainable path that uses less water from the Delta, consistent with state mandate to reduce reliance on the Delta, and invests in cost-effective supplies that create local jobs in Southern California. Things like Orange County's water recycling plant can be and must be replicated. I've heard a lot of opponents, a lot of supporters of WaterFix say, we need to have an all-of-the-above strategy. All of the above doesn't make sense in energy policy. It doesn't make sense in water policy. What it means is that you're going to be paying for all of the above. And I expect that if the board does vote in favor of this project, you will not therefore come back later in the day and say, we don't have the money to pay for local stormwater capture projects or water recycling projects because you've committed to all of the above. Ultimately, this project is not going to significantly improve water supply reliability. It doesn't address the 400 miles of the California aqueduct crossing earthquake faults. It doesn't address earthquake risks in Southern California. It addresses one piece of the system in a manner that does not actually improve the environment. It doesn't meaningfully improve your water supply, and it certainly doesn't guarantee continued water deliveries at the same level that we've seen in the past. With or without the tunnels, we need to reduce the amount of water we divert from the Delta, and paying for these tunnels will only make that solution harder. And for those reasons, we urge the board to vote no on this proposal and come back and work with the environmental community and Delta communities on long-term solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard Lambros, followed by Charlie Wilson.
Good afternoon, Chair Record, members of the board. My name is Rich Lambros. I'm here today representing the Southern California Leadership Council, and it's my pleasure to express our strong support for the California water fix. With Southern California's cyclical droughts and arid terrain, implementing the water fix is critical to ensuring that the 25 million Californians who depend on water from the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta have a safe, clean, and resilient water source. For those of you unfamiliar with the Leadership Council, SCLC is a nonpartisan, nonprofit leadership organization focused on major public policies critical to economic vitality, job growth, and the quality of life in Southern California. SCLC is privileged to be led in its work by three of California's former governors, Governors Deukmejian, Wilson, and Davis. Along with California Governor Jerry Brown, SCLC supports an all-of-the-above water strategy that includes water conservation, water recycling, reclaimed water, stormwater capture, groundwater management, as well as innovating new water supply, conveyance, and storage capacity. Though Southern California has made great strides in all of these areas, 30% of Southern California's water still flows down from Northern California through the Delta. This essential water source supplements our local water supplies, replenishes groundwater basins, and provides us with safe, clean water during times of drought. Yet the Delta infrastructure is outdated and susceptible to severe damage from extreme weather, earthquakes, and rising sea levels that could disrupt this water flow to the Southland. All it takes, as many speakers have mentioned, is one earthquake or terrible storm, and Southern California could be cut off from the state's largest water supply. The water fix is a long overdue answer to these major threats. The Leadership Council has taken its time to thoroughly evaluate the California water fix and especially its costs and benefits to our state and region. What we have found is that the water fix not only improves the Delta conveyance system and secures California's water supply, but that there are also strong economic and environmental improvements that will be derived from this project that will positively impact our region and our state. These benefits are even more pronounced when compared to the status quo in the Delta or to any of the other comparable supply and conveyance options for our region. For these reasons, the Southern California Leadership Council supports the California water fix, and again, we respectfully encourage the Metropolitan Board to vote today in favor of this important project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Charlie Wilson, followed by Alan Shanahan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Charlie Wilson. I am the Executive Director of the Southern California Water Committee, a coalition, the most diverse coalition on water issues in the state of California, running from Kern County to the Mexican border and from the coast to the state lines. We have been engaged in this issue on water reliability for going on 35 years, on this specific project for going on 10 years. We represent real people in real communities, and we've been engaged in the public education and dialogue that is important to make decisions like the ones confront you today. So let me deal just a little bit with what we do know as you go into your vote this afternoon. What we know is that water sustains our homes and our families. What we know is that water propels business and industry, which creates the jobs that fuels California's economy. We know that our aging water infrastructure is vulnerable and it needs modernization. We also know that there's an opportunity here to fulfill California's promise by investing in a modern project that uses state-of-the-art technology to deliver water to the entirety of the state. We also know that we need flexibility in our state delivery system for the future. This year alone, as a wet year, provided a great example where we lost 158 billion gallons of water because we didn't have the ability to move it and to store it. That's enough water for the city of Oxnard, Long Beach, Anaheim, Santa Ana, San Bernardino, Riverside, and San Diego combined for 1 year. The water we get from the State Water Project is the base on which every other alternative is made possible. So as we talk about the all-the-above strategy and doing local resource projects like recycling, like stormwater capture, without fresh Sierra Nevada water to blend and to bring costs down, that is the base on which none of those other opportunities make sense. In fact, in every staff analysis at water agencies, cities, and your own staff's analysis, it shows that all other options are between 2 and 15 times more expensive. So if you are truly concerned about low income and ability to pay, the California Water Fix and the State Water Project is clearly the preferred alternative from an efficiency standpoint. In California, we continually reinvent the future for the world. It is time we do the same now for ourselves. I ask you to join with the 2/3 of Southern Californians whom we have polled that support modernizing the state water system through the California Water Fix. We urge your aye vote today. Thank you.
Followed by Gary Tobin.
Good morning, Chairman Record, members of the board. My name is Alan Shanahan. You all know me as the president of AFSCME Local 1902, which represents about 3/4 of the employees here at Metropolitan Water District. But more importantly, we represent water agencies from Rosemont all the way out to the Arizona border and down to San Diego. First and foremost, we are ratepayers. I went through my own pain with Western Municipal Water District, and many of us know how much water actually costs. The employees at AFSCME are the top minds and scientists and environmentalists in the region. We are the foremost when it comes to these areas, and we take our jobs very seriously. We are here to express our strong support for the California Water Fix. We know that it will bring local jobs. We have seen it. As the sponsor of a joint apprenticeship training committee here at Metropolitan Water, we have seen how we've brought people in low-income communities up through the ranks and given them good jobs so they can take care of their families. And we know this will expand with the California Water Fix if you approve it today. So we will keep this brief, and we urge your strong support and your yes vote on this, including my director from Western. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Tobin, followed by Tracy Hernandez.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Tobin. I'm president of the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to thank you. Thanks to you, the directors of the Metropolitan Water District, and your predecessors. Thank you for the State Water Project. Thank you for the Colorado River Aqueduct. Thank you on behalf of most of the people in this room who would not have a job in Southern California or live in Southern California if it weren't for the work of the Metropolitan Water District. I'm here to support California Water Fix. I'm here to support it because we need to modernize the State Water Project. When that project was approved by the voters of this state in 1960, I don't think anyone knew that it would be the most significant infrastructure project ever built in the state of California. Now we need to modernize it and improve it. I've lived in Southern California now for 11 years, and 8 of those 11 years, we've been in the middle of a drought. But because of the work of the Metropolitan Water District, most of the people in this room didn't even feel that drought. We all tried to help by conserving, but there was still water there. When I think of those 8 years of drought, and when I think of the wildfires that are destroying portions of our state today, it makes me wonder how we could possibly question the need for water and the California Water Fix. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Hernandez, Gilbert Ivy.
Good afternoon, Chairman Record and members of the board. My name is Tracy Hernandez. I'm the founding CEO of BizFed, which is the largest network of business advocacy networks throughout the state of California. And my handsome better half is Gilbert Ivey, who is the chair of our BizFed Institute, and he comes with over 40 years' experience in the water reliability and access business. So he gives us great guidance in making our decisions. Thank you for allowing us to testify this afternoon to show our intense support for the California Water Fix. Our 160 business organizations representing 325,000 employers drive this economy. And we're compelled to drive public policy to improve the quality of life for our 3 million employees. Yes, those 3 million employees are real people right here in Southern California. As we all know, Southern California is highly dependent on an outdated water distribution system that was built, as Gary Tobin just said, mid-century to deliver water supplies to millions of residents and thousands of businesses. On average, over the last decade, 60% of all the water that our cities right here in the region use to provide us with precious services for our fire departments, for our hospitals, for our parks, come from Met. For our membership, the California Water Fix is a lifeline and our chance for the region to secure a reliable water source. Sadly, as we all know today, so many of our friends and families whose homes and businesses are burning down right now in the Anaheim Hills and Sonoma need water, need our standing up for them, need us to pay attention to disaster. Just recently, we all witnessed the horrific destruction left behind in the hurricanes in the state of Texas and in Florida, and of course not to mention the terrible earthquake in Mexico. Securing our water supply will not be shut down when our big earthquake hits. It's not if, as we know, it's when. It's imperative, and it's a moral imperative for you to act today, to shore it up, to make sure that our water supply will be there for us when more disasters hit us in California. And you know, you're the largest district. You have the most important vote today. You have to say yes. Regardless of everyone fear-mongering about what Central Valley and other places may or may not do, the only thing you're being asked to do is vote on your share, your 26% share, period. You do not bear responsibility for what others will vote on in the state. That's all you're committing to is your share. That equates to about the $2 per household per month to ensure that we have the lowest cost water supply to keep all of our families functioning. And I want to give you an important reminder, but I'm out of time and I will respect that. So we will just call for your yes on the water fix. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Raftican, followed by Bruce Campbell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Tom Raftican from the Sport Fishing Conservancy. We're a conservation organization focusing on recreational fishing. Opposition to everything is easy. Fixing stuff isn't so easy. EcoRestore and California Water Fix take a proactive approach to addressing difficult habitat and resource needs in addition to updating a long-neglected infrastructure. While not perfect, these parallel programs together clearly provide the best alternative for conservation and for the conservation-oriented outdoor community. EcoRestore and California Water Fix are designed to improve delta habitat and resource conditions. It's also important to note that projected improvements work equally well for all resident species. The well-documented salmon plight needs to be addressed. However, the larger bass fishing community must also support these same improvements, as these improvements will simultaneously help all resident fish populations. Note also that while EcoRestore and California Water Fix improve habitat for all delta fish, they also aid Southern California reservoirs, clearly in the best interest of all California's outdoors community. We urge support. Thank you.
Thank you. Bruce Campbell, followed by Barbara Hensley. Okay, no Bruce Campbell, then we'll go to Barbara Hensley, followed by Rob Catherman.
Good day, Chair and board members. My name is Bruce Campbell. Just scurried down from upstairs. First, the extensive Bay Delta Conservation Plan is no longer a component of the Delta Tunnel scheme, so any possible environmental cover one might claim in voting for the project is gone. It is claimed that the tunnel water will cost a few times less than alternative sources. While it is handy to underestimate the cost of the tunnels by a few times, I bet it will cost in the 60s $1 billion range when one includes interest payments as well. Imagine the direct carnage on species from building 2 giant tunnels beneath the delta at a depth of 150 feet. This will be cost overrun central. It is claimed the tunnels will take up to 18 years to build. If that is the claim, it could well take 22 years. And does anyone really think that environmental conditions will improve in the delta if a substantial percentage of its water never even enters the delta due to diversion by the tunnels? What's the rush except to lock in the 99% to largely pay for water for the 1%? Also, we need more info on how the generally privatized Kern water banks and underground storage situation in Kern County may relate to the tunnels project. Will it be public money funding a private water bank? Also, consider the huge amount of carbon emissions related to construction. Let's all keep track of the officials who vote for this boondoggle so we can inform voters in the future in regards to their financial recklessness. Please reject this boondoggle. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Hensley, followed by Rob Catherman. Rob Catherman, I don't see Ms. Hensley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Rob Catherman with the Water Replenishment District, and we're a groundwater agency nested within your service area. We've got about 4 million people within our district, and we've been working for the last 12 years to get ourselves off of imported water. So why the heck am I here today? Next year we'll be completely independent from imported water. But the fact of the matter is we have 500,000 acre-feet of unfilled, empty groundwater space in our aquifers that we could utilize imported water in the wet years to fill our groundwater aquifers to be used in the drought years here in Southern California. So for those reasons, we support your project. I think it's part of all of the above: conservation, stormwater capture, and advanced water treatment facilities in Southern California. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Teresa Brady, followed by David Troy. Yeah, we could have someone check and see if there's somewhere outside. David Troy.
They're upstairs.
Christina von Hoffman. Sally Arscott. Steve Dunwoody. Bruce Campbell. Go ahead. Just give us your name, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sally Arscott. I don't have a fancy title. I'm just a little immigrant resident of an in-between neighborhood, Glassell Park. And I think most certainly that people have not been informed of what this rather glossy-looking project, this plan about the tunnels is all about. And hearing quotes of things like 2/3 of California wants this or that is completely ridiculous because people have not been informed. I feel very outnumbered by strong organizations that are in the biz. I'm very concerned about possessive pronouns, my water, our water, your water. And also, what is this project, this plan for the tunnels? Is it your plan? I heard someone say your plan. Is it our plan? I'm very aware of the shifting plates of this business, like tectonic plates, is that the right word? In the water business, I feel I hope it's not the beginning of the end, perhaps nationwide, and seeing things privatized. I don't believe that water was created for business propositions. I think it was to sustain all forms of life, all breeds, all colors, all species, every piece of grass, the whole lot. So that's what's really struck me today, is what exactly is going on. We've heard enormous concerns from the private citizens, and I do trust, I pray, I hope that the citizens are not forgotten in the middle of all these big, glossy plans, which do seem, the more I explore it, to have been ill-researched. And I would absolutely agree with, let's fix what we know are the tremendously costly things that need to be done already in LA. As a gentleman so wisely put it, there's no point in having a glossy tunnel to bring you maybe some water if you don't have solid infrastructure around your house or in your neighborhood. I know we have enough water leaks on our own street. It's just phenomenal. The stuff's crumbling. So I would highly recommend fixing LA first, using the taxpayer money we have to fix, to better manage that money, to fix LA first, before we try and possibly hoodwink a whole lot of people over some glossy project. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
An announcement was made in the overflow room for anybody who's filled out a card to come down. So when you come down, just please introduce yourself and speak. Thank you.
I'm Teresa Brady, and I am here to ask you to vote against the tunnels because a lot of what you've heard today about the jobs and the infrastructure needs to be replaced, and that would provide a lot of jobs. And you know, we've been having those, how there's sinkholes because of the water infrastructure failing here in LA. And that was a very good point somebody made about if they have they build a new tunnel, but the infrastructure is failing, then how is it ever going to get to anybody? And also, it's a very good point that all of the residents who are going to be taxed were not consulted. It seems like that should be something that goes to a vote, whether all the citizens of LA really want to be paying a couple more dollars per month for this tunnel, rather than for infrastructure to get it actually to their house. The comments that people have made about the fish, I mean, some people were saying that it will damage the delta, and some people are saying, oh no, it won't. Can you imagine it actually benefiting fish to not have water? I mean, do you not picture? You take the water away, the fish are benefiting somehow? I don't understand that. And there are ways to, the comments about ways that we can get more water and the ways that we have actually reduced the amount of water even though we've increased in population by conservation. We need to continue with that. In fact, I really feel that maybe lawns should be illegal, because why are we importing water from Northern California to just help people to have a big lawn? It's kind of an archaic thing from years gone by when people wanted to pretend they were so wealthy. Hi, Glenn. That they didn't have to grow their own food. And that's what lawns are. They're like an image, like I'm really so wealthy I don't have to grow my own food. We don't need those. We don't need to be wasting imported water on that.
And I think my time is up, but I can't really tell. Thank you.
Hello, members of the board. I'm David Troy. I'm a homeowner. I live in Topanga, and I feel it's important to skip working on my house like I should be doing to come down here and share some thoughts. I feel that I've been to a few meetings about this. I don't know everything about it, but I'm going to share some thoughts. It looks to me like a masterpiece of confusion and deceit, honestly. The big word that should be on all of our minds right now is sustainability. Where do we, as a species, stand at this point in time with regards to sustainability? I think that we better think twice. My backyard in Portland was the Columbia Gorge. Well, you know what? It's gone. 200-year trees. It was gorgeous. I live in Topanga. I know Topanga's going to burn. We've got fires coming. Do we have any hurricanes around? Things are changing. You know what? We've got to start thinking heavily about sustainability. Big business. You know, a lot of people have talked about how it helps our jobs and our business. We've got to be starting to think about sustainability. I'll give you an example of sustainability. The water department came to my front door. Well, my house is a little unusual in Topanga. It's on a mountainside. And I see this guy turning on my water, and he says, what are you doing? And he says, I'm just checking your water. What do you mean? I want to make sure that the meter's working, you know. Oh, well, I had for about 5 years something that's been used now in Arizona, a waterless toilet. I used so little water that they had to come and see if my meter was working. We can change in the direction of sustainability. And this project is a squandering. It's an environmental squandering of we don't even know all of the resources we're challenging and threatening in the Delta. It's an environmental nightmare every direction. The amount of money and the fact that it's corporate welfare for big agriculture, I mean, I'm really not pleased with the idea of this project. And finally, I think of Detroit, you know. I think of gentrification. Very little of that water is going to go to the people in LA, the millions. That's a joke. But the rates will go up. Jobs. Those union leaders who spoke.
Thank you for your time.
My time is up. Thank you. Okay.
Hello, my name is Christina von Hoffman. I'm here on behalf of Climate Resolve. I'm the outreach director for the organization. And Climate Resolve is a Los Angeles-based organization that works to address the human impact of climate change, making it real and tangible for Angelinos and also working throughout the state. Climate Resolve cares about people and how we here in California are going to adapt to meet the climate crisis. Due to climate change, the California Delta is transforming. The intrusion of salt water has threatened the delivery of water in the past, but climate change will make it even more difficult. With sea level rise, salt water will further intrude into the Delta, and the flow of fresh water out of the Sierra Nevada is shifting in its timing and volume. We face summer and autumn months where there could be no water flowing out of the Sierra. Due to climate change, we have two essential choices. One, abandon the aqueduct system, which will have severe consequences for the state. Or two, upgrade California's water system. By moving the intake upstream, the state buys years of security against rising sea levels. We urge the Metropolitan Water District to vote yes to enact a smart, environmentally responsible plan to secure our region's water supply. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Steve Dunwoody. I'm a veteran and California director of the Vet Voice Foundation. We're a national nonprofit of 60,000 veterans, active military, and their families who use our voices to speak out on public policy issues such as the environment, conservation, and public lands. We would like to express our opposition to any vote to approve the Delta tunnels at this time. The project will take water. We share the concerns with others that the project will take water from Los Angeles for the benefit of private commercial interests. It will mean increased water rates and property taxes for our residents who will receive no benefit from this. Many of our most vulnerable and their families will be impacted by these increases. When given our own infrastructure challenges, this is something that we simply cannot afford. We need more local water resources and sensible solutions that are cheaper and will create local jobs for our community, not projects that will not benefit our people and might also be at risk during natural disasters. In addition to this, we join with others here who have voiced concerns about the lack of transparency throughout this process, which is not in keeping with the assurances that were made to our elected officials. And lastly, as members of the military, we took an oath to defend this country against threats, both foreign and domestic. Now, as veterans, this work continues to voice our concerns by the threat posed to our communities by this project. It is for these reasons, on behalf of our membership who served and put their lives on the line for this country, that we ask you to not approve this project at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Mendoza. I live in the city of Pomona, a heavily concentrated Latino community. And first of all, I'm here to express my support for the California water fix and express some views on some issues that the gap, between, say, our communities, Spanish-speaking communities, and what takes place, and sometimes rooms like this is pretty great, And I think it's going to get a lot greater for a lot of people in the Central Valleys, particularly Westland's Water District, who don't want to support the project. I took it and I read some of the financial reports of Westland Water District, and I found out that the ones that are going to be mostly highly impacted in the Central Valley, in the farm areas, there's going to be a lot of the Latino communities there. Right now, there's already a lot living in poverty. They have access to education is very difficult out there. And a lot of, the towns are just going down because they haven't had, a due amount of water there. So when Westland voted not to support the project and go the other way, all they're going to do is, and their own report says there's going to be devastation in the Latino communities out there. There's going to be, less access to higher education. People are going to be migrating out of the valley and a bunch of other social problems. And then when people say, the business sector, whatever it is, when Westland was formed, back in the 60s, whatever, there was a ban in office, and the voting system was that only property owners could vote to be on that board there, So property owners, of course, are private sector people. There's no access for like low income Latinos or people to get on those boards and stuff like that. So for us, for the board to vote against it would be to keep those farmlands in poverty. So I urge you support the California water fix. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm currently a resident of Long Beach, California.
Your name, please?
What's that? Oh, Sarah Yang.
Thank you.
And I'm currently a resident of Long Beach, California. And to be honest, I really didn't feel like coming here at all. It seemed maybe kind of pointless, and it takes over 2.5 hours of my time just commuting on the blue and red line trains. But ultimately, I came because I felt guilty thinking about all the regular people out there, the ratepayers, who can't take time out of their day to come right in the middle of the day and to voice their opposition to this project. And really, the average person out there doesn't even know about this project, which is kind of disturbing, thinking about how massive it is and how it's going to affect every ratepayer. You would think that you would put it before the public, and if its merits are truly what the supporters and backers claim, that you would let it let it stand on its own merits, and make the supporters and backers really sell the project. And if it's too complicated to explain and for the public to understand, that usually means that there's something fishy about it. So anyway, my main concern is that I don't feel that the benefits, the claimed benefits, are justified, that the price justifies, that it justifies the price. So, and thinking about $17 billion and the other kind of projects that cost around that same price, such as converting the Los Angeles and Long Beach ports to reduce carbon emissions, that seems, worth like $15 billion. Or the International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, otherwise known as ITER, in France, which is trying to achieve nuclear fusion. I mean, that's right now like $16 billion. It'll go up to $20 billion or more. That actually seems like something you get some results out of. And it just kind of seems embarrassing to spend $17 billion on some tunnels I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of opposition to it. So those are my apprehensions, and I really think that we could do better at coming up with a wiser plan that really offers a real solution, not some 20th century solution, but a real 21st century solution. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning. Bruce Resnick, Executive Director of the Environmental Watchdog Group, Los Angeles Waterkeeper. Thank you for having this hearing and allowing us to testify in front of you and ask that you oppose this project. Now, I testified at the last workshop that you did, and I won't do the exact same talking points, but I wanted to clear up some of the misconceptions that came out of that. The first is, I think most people in the environmental community, and certainly myself and Waterkeeper, recognize we're not going to get wholly off water. The fact that we oppose this project doesn't mean we think we can get 100% local water. It's something to aspire to, and we should be weaning ourselves off, but not something we can do certainly overnight. But the other thing is, that we don't think that there's a need for some kind of fix. I used to run a group planning and conservation league that worked with NRDC and others at the early stages of this, proposing an alternative approach, alternative tunnels, what's called a portfolio alternative. So we recognize there needs to protect the delta, to restore the delta, to protect our infrastructure. That doesn't mean that this $17 billion boondoggle is the right answer. It is not. We can do things locally. And one of the things, and I got tweeted at by the general manager at the last meeting, is this notion of all of the above. Oh, we either are doing all of the above or we can do all of the above. First of all, we are not doing all of the above. We're not doing close to all of the above. Everybody here is probably overseeing crumbling infrastructure in your regions that needs to be invested so we don't have waterways like the water mains that you pretty much read about every day in LA. We recycle a fraction of the water in this region, particularly in LA, that we do in other places. We still have hundreds of millions going from sewage and the Carson facility. We've got some plans in place, but that is all going to increase ratepayer fees. We got stormwater. We know from our MS4 permit, and that's mainly focused on compliance, not even the alternative to restore and treat and re-inject stormwater. It's going to be a multi-billion-dollar fix over the next 20 years. Something that still to this day, stormwater capture and infiltration is they're really done as pilot projects, not the everyday occurrence in every community. And not to mention our groundwater basins. How long have we been talking about restoring the San Fernando Valley and the Central Basin and even the West Coast Basin? There are billions and billions and billions of dollars of local projects we can, should, must be investing in that will do a better job of creating local jobs, good jobs, greening our communities, reducing carbon footprint, reducing heat island effect. We can, and I did say this last time, we can try to invest in propping up with a Band-Aid a 70-year-old vision of Pat Brown, or we can actually embody his spirit and present and pursue a new vision, a more sustainable vision, a more equitable vision for this region, and I urge you to do that today. Thank you.
Sir, are you, so we have Bruce Campbell, Jose Garcia, and Rob Hunter. Rob's.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Jose Garcia. I am a proud union member. I work for LIUNA, the Labor's International Union of North America. I wasn't prepared to speak today, but I heard a lot of things that are an injustice to me and to the people I work with around that have dedicated their lives to improve all of our livelihood, highways, infrastructure, schools, unfortunately prisons because we need them, but all heavy and highway building has been the foresight of our past people that had vision to see projects like this go on, to see the value of these projects that will become the value in the future. I started when, I can't believe that some people don't know what union members are. We are just workers, just like everybody else. For anybody that knows that we don't know what poor people is, me and my wife started 31 years ago with a pair of these, 2 zeros. And thank the Lord, and it's our given right in this country to organize and form a union and be given the chance to have the American dream. I come from immigrant parents that immigrated the right way here, and they have given me the opportunity, maybe not in school, but to be a proud tradesman. A tradesman that you will all depend on for me to build your future, and the audacity for people to come up here and state that we're special people. My blood, sweat, and tears have been put on this soil of California for the last 31 years, and I have dedicated my life. Sometimes I can't even sleep from the backaches I have at night. I have the opportunity to be here because of people like you that have been elected to make giant decisions bigger than what I could ever be put in my hands. And you have been elected to do so. The audacity for people to come up here and say that you know which way you're going to vote, or people are governing your vote. I am so proud that all of you have fought and for your positions and to advance yourselves and to give people like me that didn't have an education, that chose to be a tradesman, the same opportunity to be a taxpayer, a ratepayer in California. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rob Hunter. Rob Hunter.
And support the project, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board. I'd like to just say a word about the last gentleman. We've heard a lot today about division. It's not about division. I'm a former union member of the United Auto Workers. I am now the general manager of the Municipal Water District of Orange County. We all have histories. We are here today, you are here today, to exercise your responsibility to make a decision. I'm not going to lecture you on educating yourself because I know over the last several years you have read the reports, you've analyzed the financials, you've looked at the engineering studies, you have educated yourself. I'm not going to lecture you on outreach because I know the effort and the money that MET has put into outreach and the effort that every member agency has put into outreach. What I am going to do today is talk to you a bit about the support from Orange County. We have 28 member agencies. They have all taken positions in support of the water fix. You've heard of many of our organizations speak here. You had the building trades, Orange County building trades today in support. Association of California Cities, Orange County Chapter, Orange County Business Council, California Council of Environmental and Economic Balance, Orange County Taxpayers Association, North Orange County Chamber of Commerce, South Orange County Chamber of County Economic Coalition, Orange County Association of Realtors, Building Industry Association, Orange County Chapter. On the political side, we've had the Orange County Supervisors vote in favor of the project. Assemblyman Stephen Chow, Matt Harper, Senator John Morlock. Today I have a holy grail of correspondence in my hand. We have a letter from our congressional delegation from Orange County, and what makes this special, not only that it's in support of the water fix, but it is a bipartisan letter. And when was the last time you saw anything that was bipartisan out of Washington? It is signed by our congressional members, Mimi Walters, Dana Rohrabacher, Darrell Issa, Ed Royce, and Lou Correa. It's being framed. Orange County supports this project. You've heard that. Metropolitan has almost 90 years of vision and leadership in water resource projects. What Orange County wants is you to continue that leadership.
Thanks, Rob. Jeff, I think we're at the end of the speakers. Did you want to make a comment again?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I want to thank all the speakers. I really appreciate all the public input on behalf of staff and the board. I also wanted to bring the board's attention to, we put together a notebook of all the letters. We have received hundreds of letters and cards on this project, both for and against. We have put those together in a notebook outside the atrium. We put them up online, in addition to the elected officials just mentioned by Rob Hunter, Senator Hertzberg, and Jeff Stone, the chair and vice chair of the Senate Water Committee, sent a joint letter supporting the project. Senator Hertzberg said he wanted to come today, but he had to have a medical procedure done, so he wasn't able to make it. Assemblymember Blanca Rubio, Sebastian Ridley Thomas, and a number of other electeds are also included there, but several hundred letters too. So please take a chance to go flip through that and get a sense of that feeling of all the people that also commented that weren't able to make it down here in person. And thank you for all your input.
Okay, that takes us to 5A, other matters. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on September 12th, 2017, a special board meeting on September 26th, 2017. A copy has been mailed to each director. Are there any additions, corrections, or omissions? A motion and a second. Please vote.
Director Boyce, please state your vote. Director Boyce, are you still with us?
Mr. Chair, Tagus votes yes.
For record, the minutes have been approved.
Thank you. 5B, report on director's events attended at Metropolitan expense for the month of September. There should be a copy at your seat. Any corrections or additions? Then we'll go to 5C, induction of new director Barry Pressman from the City of Beverly Hills. And I will call on Marcia Scully for swearing in and for credentials.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I've reviewed the credentials and they are in order.
Great. Then I would like to call on Director Wunderlich to... Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jody.
Barry D. Pressman, solemnly swear that you... all enemies, foreign and domestic, California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which you are.
I do.
Thank you. So I'm very pleased to be introducing Barry Pressman as the new Director of Metropolitan Water District from Beverly Hills. And I'm very pleased that it's Barry that I'm introducing, but this does come with mixed emotions because this also ends my time as a Director at Metropolitan. These 10 years really have been life-changing for me. You know, that's because of the people here, that's because of the directors, it's because of the management, it's because of the employees of Metropolitan. Metropolitan really is a stellar organization, and this is really true. I am proud to be able to say that I have been a part of it. As my swan song, though, let me make one more pitch for the Tunnels Project. The tunnels, in my view, are the responsible decision. When, and I don't mean if, but I mean when there's a prolonged drought, when there's sea level rise, when there's decreased snowpack, when there's an earthquake, we'll be fortunate if these tunnels are in place. For those who say the Delta must be environmentally sustainable and that we should intensify our efforts on local resources, I agree. These tunnels, though, provide net environmental benefit for the Delta. And look at our plans for meeting water demand in the future. Fully 65% of the demand is scheduled to be met by conservation and by local resources. That's a dramatic increase from what we have today. We've seen that concentrating on only one leg of water supply reduces reliability and increases costs. We need the balanced portfolio, and that's what the Tunnels Project enables. So is there anything else that I could say about Barry? So Barry is a doctor, but he's more than a doctor. He's chair of the Department of Imaging and chair of the section of Head and Neck Radiology at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. He's past president of the American College of Radiology and past president of the California Radiological Society. He served on the editorial boards of the Journal of the American College of Radiology and the American Journal of Neuroradiology. He was appointed by the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services to the Medicare Advisory Board and served in that capacity for 3 years. He has his medical degree from the Harvard Medical School and his undergraduate degree from Dartmouth College. He's been featured in the LA Times as a super doctor since 2010, and I think you can see why. He served on the board of directors of the Los Angeles Philharmonic for the past 11 years and on the community advisory board of KPCC. He also is just ending 6 years as a public works commissioner for the city of Beverly Hills, so Barry knows his water issues also. Barry, his wife Sandy, and I were also friends. I know that he and his wife are world travelers. Their home is filled with remarkable art from their travels around the world. Barry's also a devoted punster, which I'm sure you will soon encounter. And so I'm sure you will enjoy working with Barry. And Barry, in my 10 years at Metropolitan, I've never had a vote as important as the one today. You have it on your first day, so go for it. And with that, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Barry Pressman to the Board of Metropolitan Water District.
Well, it is a momentous day, and it's quite remarkable to have the opportunity to be part of such an organization. Obviously, I have large shoes to fill. Beverly Hills is very proud of the work that Dr. Wunderlich has done in this organization, and we're very proud of the organization. California Aqueduct is the Colorado Aqueduct is a rather important part of our lives, and you're responsible for that wonderful engineering feat. I moved here a little over 40 years ago. I didn't know from droughts. I didn't know from water problems. I grew up in the East. I was trained in the East, and so water was never an issue. And immediately I started learning about the peripheral canals and was pretty disappointed when they disappeared from the agenda. Obviously, this is another very important issue, and I'm proud to be part of an organization that's giving it such important consideration. So I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you for allowing me to do so. It's a heavy burden, and I will do my best for all of you. Thank you.
You know, Director Pressman, with your credentials, one would think you'd be raising the IQ of the board significantly, but In light of who you're replacing, I'm hoping that it just stays the same, which takes us to 5D, approve commendatory resolutions for Director Robert Wunderlich representing the City of Beverly Hills. Motion and a second. Please vote.
Director Boyce, please state your vote. Director Boyce, your vote on the commendatory resolution for Director Wunderlich?
My vote is yes.
Now it's a vote, John.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Bob will expect you to come back to get that award in person. 5E, I have no committee assignments. 5F, Chairman's Monthly Activity Report, you have a copy. 6A, General Manager, Summary of Activities, Jeff.
Just two quick items. October 25th, we're having an employee awards, service awards luncheon. So if you're interested in that, please let Rosa Castro know. That's always a very nice event, and employees always appreciate those directors that are able to attend. We have been tracking the wildfires and the fires in Orange County. Right now, none of our facilities are threatened, but we are certainly keeping track of that and working closely with our Orange County agencies, making sure water supply issues and everything's taken care of. And very concerned, and certainly the fires up in Northern California as well. So we'll be monitoring that as we go forward. Nothing else to report.
Thank you. General Counsel's Summary of Activities, Marcia.
Thank you, Chairman. I have nothing to add to my report of this morning.
Okay, and John, are you filling in for Jerry today?
I have nothing to add to our written report.
Perfect. And so we'll go to 7, consent calendar items. Need approval for all consent calendar items. Are there any abstentions or no votes on any items?
So moved.
Having a motion and a second. Please vote.
Director Boyce, please state your vote.
My vote is yes.
Chairman, record the consent calendar has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. Other board action items, 8.1, I'll call on Committee Chair Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to report the following actions taken at the meeting of the October 2017 Adjourned Engineering Operations Committee. Item 8.1 was adopting CEQA determination and appropriate $4.41 million and authorize number 1 agreement with Project Partners LLC in an amount not to exceed $2,722,000 for the deployment of Metropolitan Project Controls Reporting System, and number 2, agreement with Oracle Corporation in the amount not to exceed $600,000 for procurement of application licenses, and authorize the General Manager to amend the agreement if needed with Project Partners by up to $250,000. The item passed unanimously in committee, and I so move.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote.
Director Boyce, your vote on item 8.1.
I vote yes.
For the record, item 8.1 is approved unanimously.
Thank you. 8.2, I'll call Committee Chair Kurtz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At its October 9th meeting, the Communication and Legislation Committee voted to adopt a CEQA determination that the proposed project is not defined as the proposed action is not defined as a project and is not subject to CEQA, and authorized the General Manager to express support, if amended, for S-1272, the Drone Federation Act of 2017, was a unanimous vote, and I so move.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote.
Director Boyce, your vote. Director Boyce, your vote, please.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Chair record, the support, if amended, for S-1272, Drone Federalism Act of 2017 has been approved unanimously.
Thank you. 8.3 has been withdrawn. 8.4, adopt CEQA determination and express metropolitan support for California Water Fix. Authorize participation in the construction of California Water Fix, including payment of costs consistent with Metropolitan's 25.9% share of overall costs. Authorize the general manager to execute the following agreements having terms as described in this board letter. 1, agreement for implementation of an adaptive management program for project operations. 2, joint powers agreement forming the Delta Conveyance Design and Construction Joint Powers Authority. And 3, joint powers agreement forming the Delta Conveyance Financing Joint Powers Authority, and adopt a resolution authorizing the general manager to participate in the Financing Joint Powers Authority, authorizing the purchase of private placement bonds from the California Department of Water Resources, and issue public bonds by the Financing Joint Powers Authority consistent with Metropolitan's share of 25.9% of the California Water Fix project costs, including an agreement to secure payment of Metropolitan's share. I'm going to call on Jeff to do a short presentation, and after he's done with that, I will explain to you how I want this vote to proceed. Let's respect each other today and make sure that you're called on before you start to speak. With that, Jeff?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go ahead and just give this presentation myself rather than have staff do it. And the good news is that I'll be short. So there's two people I'd like to introduce, though, briefly, who came down here, and I don't want them to speak because we've heard plenty of voices already, but I would like the board to introduce them, and we'll get them back to address the committee at another date. Jennifer Pierre, if you'd stand up. Jennifer is the relatively new Executive Director of State Water Contractors, a group we are a member of and we work very closely with. So we'll have her come down and address our committee at some point. Thank you, Jennifer. And Grant Davis, the Director of the California Department of Water Resources, replacing Mark Cowan. Thank you for coming, Grant, and we'll certainly have you come and talk to our committee in the future. So if you'd put up the first slide with the contractors on that. I think I have a total 3-slide presentation here. This came up at committee the other day, what agencies have acted to date. As you can see, Coachella acted earlier this morning. All those agencies are state water project contractors that have agreed to pay their share of California Water Fix to date. Only Zone 7 Water Agency, which is up in Alameda County in Northern California, has said that they explicitly want to participate and have representation on the 2 JPAs. The others have all, being smaller agencies, have all suggested that they would like to have a small agency representative of which they would rotate and take turns on, but not necessarily them the entire time. Then you see the upcoming votes starting between ours today and through Santa Clara, October 17th. This is not the entire world of state water project contractors. The other state water contractors have just said, we'll accept the bills when they come. We support the project and we'll just be billed as if DWR as those bills come in. So they're not taking formal positions on it. Can you have the next slide? Not really what I was looking for, but a nice picture nonetheless. So this is, we're going to get straight into the option. That's going to be the entire presentation, just what the board action is today. The board action today is pretty straightforward. We're asking the board to support the project, the California Water Fix, at Metropolitan's proportionate share of 25.9% and authorize the general manager in the form acceptable to the general contractor, general counsel, a lot of contractors today, to execute the following agreements. They are 2 JPAs, the Design and Construction JPA, the Financing JPA, and the Adaptive Management Agreement. And then we're also asking the board, as a responsible agency, to adopt the CEQA findings and the mitigation plan as adopted by the responsible agency, California Department of Water Resources. The Design and Construction JPA, this is something that has been very important to this board all along, that Metropolitan have a direct seat and a direct voice in the design and construction of this project. We have a long and proven track record at Metropolitan of delivering complex, large-scale projects on time and on budget. appreciate the Director of Department of Water Resources being here, but we did want to take matters into our own hands as is our own money, and this is something that the board has directed staff to do, and that's something that we think it's very critical that we enter into that agreement. The financing JPA. There are a number of agencies, as you see, who will be financing this, but at roughly 26%, Metropolitan is the largest share. We are the single largest component of the financing plan, and we think it's critical that we have a direct seat on the financing JPA and that we represent our ratepayers' interest in that and determining when and how to issue bonds and what to spend. And finally, the adaptive management plan. This is new. This is something that you've seen on many, many other estuaries and systems throughout the country, in the Columbia River, seen this back east in the Chesapeake Bay, where contractors that are providing good science, which, as you are well aware of, Metropolitan has funded and put a lot into the science of this, of what we need to do in the Delta, has a direct voice in determining the adaptive management. We are very interested in the habitat on this project. We are very interested in ensuring that the project and the habitat and all those are managed adaptively in a way that works for the environment, and we do want to have a voice on that, and we do want to participate in this. So that is essentially the actions that we're taking. I did want to address a few questions that board members have raised with me over the last couple of weeks. And the first one is, why should we act on all the agreements right now, given some uncertainty about other funding? Why not just support the project and act on the agreements as they come together, as we have more funding and more participants and more clarity on who will participate? I think the answer for that is pretty straightforward. This is not intended to be a symbolic vote. This is intended to be an action vote. We are ready to act. We are ready to do this project. Should it all come together, what we would ask this board to do is what we would be doing is that the general manager would be signing those agreements and we would be funding and committing our 25.9%. That is what we're asking the board to do, is to take action, not to take a symbolic vote and come back at another time to take action. Second question is that I've heard a lot, what does the Westlands vote mean for Central Valley project participation, and can the project go forward without it? As I've said to the board at the September 26th meeting, there's probably basically two courses of action that would be result in a project going forward at this point in time. One is the Brown administration to work with the Department of Interior and come up with a financing plan and the rest of the CVP contractors that would enable them to pick up their full 45%. At that point, we would be proceeding with the original project. If this board adopts staff's motion, staff's proposal today, that would be Metropolitan would execute those agreements and we would be funding our 25.9% and the project would be moving forward. The second path is that the Central Valley project and the administration doesn't get their act together and we don't have full financing for that. At that point, we would be working with the Brown administration looking at potentially a state water project phased program where you would build part of the project. You eventually might return and build the rest of it later with the Central Valley project, but you'd be building a smaller set of facilities in a phased manner, eventually probably leading to full build out, but it would be over time. That would be the other approach. If that other approach is what ends up moving forward, that will be brought back to this board for action because that's different than the action that we're taking today. Third question, how will Metropolitan fund the participation in this within the Metropolitan family? The direction we've always had from the board is that we are using our existing rate structure and our existing financing. So that means roughly 85% of this project will be paid for volumetrically and through our rates. That basically means how much water you buy is how much you pay. Roughly 15% of our revenues are collected through fixed charges, the readiness to serve charge, and the property tax. There's been a lot of people have been speculating that we're going to have to raise property taxes. That is not what we've done. We haven't done that in more than 40 years at Metropolitan. There is no planning to do that. There is nothing on the books to do that. This will be paid for through our existing rate structure. I've had specifically a number of people, San Diegans, ask me, how will that be parsed through the state water project bills and what's supply and what's transportation? The way we have done this is the Department of Water Resources has put those components on their bill, breaking it down between supply and transportation, and Metropolitan has just passed that through. They have not yet taken a position on this project of what is supply, what's transportation. But at this point, Metropolitan has not second-guessed the department in however they've made that determination. And then finally, last question I've heard from a lot of people is, wouldn't it be better if we ended up with that phased approach, building something smaller first and then moving on beyond that? I actually think that would be a mistake, frankly, for the state of California, but it may be something that's necessary for the financing plan. What that would mean is the Central Valley project, presumably, would be pumping from the south of the Delta, still having all the environmental issues there, still being heavily regulated, while on the west side of Highway 5 and on the east side of Highway 5, you'd have a different set of regulations governing and a more reliable water supply. And farmers separated by a couple of miles would be operating under two very different sets of rules. It would be challenging. There'd be a lot of litigation over back and forth on that. And it frankly doesn't seem like the smart way to go, because at the end of the day, we should have one set of rules governing the water supply for the entire state. This is essentially a climate change project. This operates just like our inland feeder. Our inland feeder refilled our entire Diamond Valley Lake and brought water into our system in 2011, and it did it again in 2017. That's what this project is meant to replicate for the state, that ability to take that big gulp of water when storms are, move it into storage, and get you through the dry years. That makes the most sense for us. We think the full project gets you the full benefits. If we end up doing phasing, that's something we will be bringing back to the board and proceeding in that way. And that is the entire presentation, and we thank the board. And if you have any questions, smart people like Roger Patterson and Gary Breaux are here to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to address a couple questions that I've heard a lot also, to maybe that'll save some of the discussion. But the biggest question is not the amount of money that we're agreeing to participate with, but could we potentially end up being liable for other people's obligations that they make and then don't service or don't take care of? And so I'd like to ask either the General Counsel or our CFO to answer that question. Are we obligated for more than our share in that situation?
I'll start, and Gary can correct me or add to it. The intent is, as the general manager expressed it, and as he also expressed that the general counsel would be reviewing any documents that Metropolitan enters into. The intent is very clear, and I guess I shouldn't say very clear because I know there have been some questions, that the authority that the board would be granting today would be solely for Metropolitan's 25.9% share. We would not be backing up any other entity. We would not be a stand-in. We would not fulfill any other entity's obligations. There have been some questions regarding the structure, some of the agreements, that JPAs, that there could possibly be joint and several liability. Our view would be that any documents would be drafted to preclude that the obligation would be with the entity, would not flow through to the individual participants, and in the event there were any change required, that change would have to come back for further approval by this board.
Anything to add, Gary? Okay. So here's how I want to see this proceed today. This has been a really long process, and this agency has spent an awful lot of time and money looking at what the right way to move forward is. We've all been part of that, and it's been a really interesting process. We have before us, based on all that work, what staff's recommendation is. And I want to deal with that recommendation first. And in that light, I won't take substitute motions. I won't take amendments to motions, and I won't take motions to table or delay the vote. We've done that enough already. I want to have a good discussion, and I will call on people as they weigh in here. But as I said, if we get a motion and a second for the item on the table, we'll deal with that first. If it doesn't pass, then we'll pick up other motions that may be out there. So with that, I'll call on Director DeJesus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After decades in this industry, I have seen firsthand how California has changed and continues to change in a number of sectors that impacts water supply and reliability. For years, we have engaged in a process of gathering information, assisting in the analysis led by others, and in studies that we have conducted on our own, the culmination of which has led us to this very day at this very place. There's no escaping it. Each one of us, whether we realize it or not, we're destined to take part in this historic decision. Own it. For no matter how you vote today, your name will go down in California water history. We have been presented with numerous staff reports and presentations. We have heard the public share their opinion on the matter, and I want to thank those who took the time to come and speak, write me, email me their concerns and their support. Mr. Chairman, I am more convinced today than ever before that the California water fix vote needs to occur. Metropolitan must go on record, and any further delay would amount to nothing more than a skirting of responsibility on the issue. Therefore, it is with this understanding that I ask the rest of this board to join me in supporting the Metropolitan's participation in the California water fix as recommended in option 1 of board letter 8-4.
Second. Was that a motion?
That was a motion.
Okay. Director Camacho?
I'd like to second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Director Gray?
Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I thought it was important to hear, for all of you to hear West Basin's perspective on it. We've certainly heard a lot of comment and discussion and debate from not just the board, but from members here today, and I can appreciate everyone's perspective because diversity is very important in our discussions, and certainly this, we're all part of democracy. But I do have some comments briefly. Today is a very important choice that all of us have to make, and I think it's a decision that I believe that all of my board members are informed, have been informed, and I think they will make a very informed decision. We've worked, meaning the board has worked towards this end for several decades, and Metropolitan staff and others, and dedicated the past year to develop a deep understanding of the needed infrastructure and operational aspects of water fix, as well as the fiscal impacts to the metropolitan service area. Through our deliberations, we have been open and transparent. I really, truly believe we have had a very transparent process. And we have worked with our individual communities to listen to their concerns and support regarding our water supply and the future. We've heard comments today regarding local projects. West Basin certainly believes that more local projects are essential to our water supply portfolio, but they are not meant to replace the state water project. We certainly are interested in reducing our dependency on imported water, but it does not, local projects does not replace water projects, the state water projects. While each member agency must consider the cost impacts, in the West Basin service area, that includes 17 diverse cities, and I think it would be difficult to say the cost outweighs the value. Our own analysis shows that the water fix cost to the average household could range from $5 for more affluent areas due to their larger landscapes and water uses, but in other areas in our service area, it's 86 cents. In the area of high density, less than $1. Although every dollar counts for each individual household, I must agree with the Los Angeles Office of Accountability in their analysis of what the California water fix would cost Los Angeles ratepayers, and conclude that the water fix is affordable to our communities. This is all based on no more than 26%, specifically 25.9% for Metropolitan Water District. If further negotiations, has been stated by the general manager and our council, further negotiations with other contractors reveal a different set of deal points, I know that this board will consider the updated costs and benefits accordingly. We will have a very vigorous discussion and opportunity to certainly discuss those issues. I want to thank Metropolitan staff for their timeless work to deliver timely updates to the board, for making yourself readily available to attend member agency and stakeholder meetings to discuss the California water fix over the past several years, and for ensuring the public's access to Metropolitan in this decision-making process. And for that, I choose to be part of a legacy of strong leadership that will ensure that we have water reliability for future generations. So I do support option 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hogan.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I have to express my disappointment with regards to suspending the board practice of allowing the submission of a substitute motion. I was prepared to provide that substitute motion in an effort to demonstrate our support for the water fix and the 25.9% of the project. My issues are based on the implementation of the agreements, specifically the financing JPA. As I've expressed to you and the general manager, I still have concerns with the implementation of that, and that the water district and Metropolitan could be on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars before we know who's going to participate in that project. I was hoping to try to address those concerns by submitting this substitute motion. I'm not going to be able to do that, but I want to express my frustration, and I also want to express that I do support the water fix at that percentage, but I cannot support the authorization to have the general manager execute those agreements without having more information, and particularly knowing who else is going to be involved with the JPA finance particularly.
Thank you. Certainly, if this motion doesn't pass, I'll go to you for your substitute motion. I appreciate San Diego's support of the project. I understand where you're coming from, but I feel pretty strongly that at this point, if we don't adopt the whole package, we're really not making the statement that we should be making. For me, for my agency, I'm comfortable with the assurances from our general manager, our general counselor, and general counsel and our CFO that we're not at risk, and that we are moving forward in a really prudent way. And what we have before us, as I said before, is the result of a lot of study and a lot of work. I appreciate your comments. Director Gold.
Thank you, Chairman Record, for the opportunity to speak, and thank you to the public for taking the time to be here. As you know, the Bay Delta Tunnels debate has been going on for over 40 years. My mentor, the California water leader, Dorothy Green, cut her teeth on the peripheral canal issue in the late 70s and early 80s. This battle's been very divisive, separating north from south, environmentalists and fishermen from water agencies, businesses, and the trades. I want to thank MWD for maintaining a professional demeanor throughout this entire process. Although a number of my questions about the water fix did not result in satisfactory answers, I do appreciate your patience in dealing with my concerns. A year and a half ago, LA City Mayor Garcetti appointed me as a board director to represent the city on his vision to transform the city from its 20th century water importation model, nearly 90% during the drought, to a more resilient, self-sufficient one water approach. As such, I still have tremendous concerns about our ratepayers' ability to pay for a 2-tunnel, 9,000 cubic foot per second project with very uncertain cost impacts at the same time as paying for the mayor's environmentally superior local water approach based on increased water recycling, stormwater capture, increased conservation, and increased sustainable yields and remediation of our contaminated San Fernando Valley aquifer. Local water equals local jobs, local benefits such as water quality and flood control, as well as climate and earthquake resiliency. Also, I'm still very concerned about the project impacts on the Bay Delta ecosystem, especially the continuing plummeting salmon populations. We don't know what the State Water Board will decide in their permit decisions next year, yet we are moving forward with this enormous environmental uncertainty today. We don't know who will pay for the water for San Joaquin Valley's wildlife refuges, yet we are making this decision today. You've heard me express my concerns that operations of the water fix could result in regular diversions of 1/3 to 40% of Sacramento River flows at a time when climate change will end up in reduced flows and higher water temperatures in the near future. Recent research has demonstrated that. Less flows equals warmer temperatures in the summer and fall, which means an even more stressed runs of salmon. To conclude, your education efforts have led to a change in my position. Over the last few weeks since the Westlands decision, both the state and Metropolitan Water District have expressed a willingness to discuss a one-tunnel project. I am eager and willing to work with Metropolitan Water District and the state to discuss this one-tunnel project, and I hope this project that we're voting on today evolves into a one-tunnel solution that provides both reliability and ecosystem benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's important that we determine who is in or out with the current project, and it could very well be that we come back and look at that very thing. So I look forward to that discussion if it, and when it happens. Director Pasquette?
I do have some comments I'd like to make, but before that, I was going to ask if the staff could also address some questions around the environmental mitigation for the project. Yes.
Is there a question? I'm sorry.
Well,
To talk about the environmental mitigation
I
process?
think it's important. There are some pretty significant issues, and you covered a lot of them, so I appreciate it. You heard us over the last few months, but one of the big issues that was raised during the process, and it was certainly raised by the audience today, was some more clarity or information about how this project will benefit the ecosystem. So maybe staff, I don't know, Jeff, if you want to do it, or if staff can add a little bit to that, because I know they're very well equipped to do so, and I think the audience would appreciate that.
Roger, why don't you address that?
As far as numbers, but yeah, am I good? So in the mitigation is spelled out in two places, I would say, and that one is in the final EIR and the commitments that were made there that DWR is now would be responsible for implementing. And there's a long list of those that we've presented to the board. And then there's additional mitigation requirements in the biological opinions and in the 2081 permit issued by California Fish and Wildlife Service. Those are, the first are mostly measures related to the construction and mitigating impacts of those and some land kinds of things. In the biological opinions, by and large, there are mitigation requirements associated with how the project would be operated, avoiding...
Why don't you come up to the podium, Roger?
We're having a hard time hearing you.
I'll try this. So in the two places, one is in the EIR, the final EIR that is done. There are a number of mitigation like you would have for any, I guess, normal construction project, and those are a combination of things, mostly related to the actual construction of the project to reduce and mitigate for impacts. And then there are a second set of mitigation requirements that are in the fish permits, so in the biological opinions from the two federal agencies, and in the 2081 that's been issued by Cal Fish and Wildlife, and those are measures to mitigate impacts on the fishery by the timing of the diversions, the way that works. There's also requirements there to acquire and do restoration of certain kinds of habitat that are included in those biological opinions, similar to what we have in our existing biological opinions for operation of the project. So these stack on top of. They basically said, yes, do everything that's been required up till this point in our current permits, and then in addition to that, we want to see these additional mitigation measures and these kinds of operations associated with the diversions of the tunnels when they would come online. So, and we did have, I think we've delineated the number of acres and the kind of habitat and those kinds of things in the white papers for the board, and I don't know if that's responsive or not.
Okay.
Thank you. Director Barber?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I view our vote today as a generational investment vote, and let me explain. My paternal grandparents were residents of Los Angeles, and they voted in favor of the Los Angeles Aqueduct, believing correctly that it was an investment in a new supply of water for Los Angeles, which was required for the city to grow and prosper. My paternal grandparents, who were also residents of Los Angeles, voted to create the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, understanding that bringing in an alternative supply of water from the Colorado River was a necessary investment for Southern California to grow and prosper. Parents who were residents of Fullerton voted in favor of the State Water Project, water bond, understanding that building a statewide project was an important investment for the state of California to move water statewide for the growth and prosperity of our entire state. Mr. Chairman, today our vote to complete the State Water Project is not just an investment to protect our statewide water supply. Guarantee that the Bay Delta will no longer be an unreliable conveyance facility, but a natural habitat for fish, flora, and fauna. If we fail to support the completion of the State Water Project, all of the previous investments will be wasted, and we'll have nothing to provide for our future generations.
Director Murray?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Someone earlier described the State Water Project as old, vulnerable, and in need of improvement. I thought he was describing me, but I would say that kind of like me, I'm still here. I'm still strong, and I'm still doing what I got to do, and so is the State Water Project. When we talk about water, imported water independence, it's a little bit of a misnomer, because that would also be referring to the Colorado River, from which we get water from other states. So what we're really talking about is greater independence. And I think the efforts by many, and I don't need to recount the various kinds of projects that many of the agencies that are a member of MET are currently have operational or in development, up to and most recently including the demonstration project that we're doing with the LA County sanitation districts on wastewater recycling. These are all things that we are doing and will be doing. Keep in mind that this project, should it occur, is not going to be completed for, most optimistically, 13 to 15 years. It may be more in the order of 17 to 20. We just don't know. And we're not going to be sitting idly by during that period of time and doing nothing. The other innovative projects that are currently under development or are on the drawing board are going to continue to move ahead. So as we are continuing to conserve and we are developing these alternative new water projects, our demand for water is going to be reduced, just as we are using no more than or less water today than we were, as was pointed out by one or more of the speakers, decades ago, despite the fact that our population here in Southern California has grown exponentially. So, you know, like my colleague, Mark Gold, and I couldn't say any of what he said better than he does, I too certainly would have been open or would be open to the discussion of a smaller project. But keep in mind that as we are repairing infrastructure, and certainly those of us in LA, we know the pictures of the old pipes that rupture and the water spewing down the streets. We know that well. Other communities are experiencing the same. That has to be paid for. And over time, rates are going to be impacted in order to do that. The other innovative projects, stormwater, which is still in its infancy, stormwater capture and beneficial reuse, wastewater recycling, all that's going to have to be paid for. And that's billions of dollars overall in expenditure. The jobs, I'm very concerned about the jobs. And I'm particularly supportive of those jobs being here in Southern California, where the men and women who will work on those jobs, be it with the material suppliers, the contractors, and others, who will wake up in homes and apartments here in Southern California, get dressed, and go to jobs here in Southern California. That's where my particular interests are. Tunneling is a very specific expertise. More general contractors have gotten into it over the years with rail projects and other things, but still, there are relatively few who do that. Cut and cover, trenching, and the things that go along with the kinds of projects we need here can be performed by a wider array of contractors. And those are where the jobs are and where the jobs will be in the larger numbers. And I absolutely support that. So, Mr. Chair, I just want to say that as it stands right now, I'd be very interested in a discussion about a smaller project, one that would cost less, that would allow us to have the discussions in the future about the cost of the other local projects. But I fear that I cannot support the project as it is before us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hogan, do you want to speak again?
Thank you. May you allow me, I want to make a clarification for the record. I made a statement that I was willing to submit a substitute motion with the provision that the San Diego would support a delta fix. I said the delta fix, a delta fix.
Okay.
And I want clarification with regards to that because I think it goes to the proper sizing. If we go to an alternative sizing, we're willing to support that type of a fix. Thank you.
Okay. Director Pasquet?
Thank you. I think today is probably one of the most important decisions we're going to make as individual board members. And I appreciate your patience, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate Jeff's willingness to consider a phased approach. One of the things that I heard very clearly in what's in this motion before us is the proportional share piece. What I'm concerned about, especially for the city of Los Angeles, because we do have a very diverse city, but I think we still, one of the speakers mentioned, the highest poverty levels of any large city in the United States. And so it would be difficult for me to consider a project that didn't limit our financial burdens to our proportionate share of the benefits from this project. My concern with the developments this week with Westlands voting against it and sending a signal that they may not participate financially was a disproportionate burden on the MET participants, especially the city of Los Angeles. So I'm glad to see that you addressed it, Jeff, and I'm also glad to see this limit. If anything changes going forward, this would come back to the board. You're nodding yes. Because this is a very dynamic approval process, and my hunch is that this is going to come back before this board before the year's out, given some of the changes with the other state water project participants. The other piece that's very important to me as a board member is our rate structure and how we pay for the resources that we draw from this agency. We're aligned as a city and as city representatives that our priority is not imported water. Our priority is to pursue all the local programs that our mayor has outlined and to pursue conservation in more aggressive ways. Even though we have achieved quite a bit, there's a lot more to achieve outside of our homes and businesses. And so in looking at this project and knowing that this is somewhat of an iterative process, and knowing that there's a fix on the financial burden, I'm comfortable, even though I think it's been said in prior votes on maybe the Delta Island purchase that you can do this without LA. I think on this one, it's important to work with the rest of the Met agencies and to try to come up with a solution that's a responsible one from a reliability perspective. One thing that gnaws on me quite a bit, even though we are on a path for local resources development and the basin remediation and investment in jobs in LA, is the fact that right around the time that the Wanger decision hit and the State Water Project reduced its water flows by 70%, is about the time when Los Angeles realized that 25% of our own local water supply, which is the basin, was no longer accessible to us. So the concerns weighed heavily on us, and the reality of our reliance on the State Water Project hit. That was maybe around 7 or 8 or 9 years ago. And there are years in which almost 80% of LA's water comes from the State Water Project. Luckily this year, with our water events, that dropped way down. But we have an unpredictability because of weather patterns. And you can call this a climate project, or you can call this a jobs project. But as we look at this and vote, there are important areas: reliability, environmental stewardship, and cost protection for our customers. And I can't get past the reliability piece, knowing in the last 10 years, this water project, water was so important to provide a resource for our local residents. So while I agree with Mark, my colleague to my left from LA, Director Gold, that a smaller project is probably preferable, and that the environmental impacts are so important to be mitigated and managed going forward, I'm going to stand with some of the rest of my colleagues in the region, and I'm going to support the project today on the condition that our costs are limited, and on the condition that we're going to take a holistic approach as an agency to pursue other things outside of just this modernization of the water fix and look at local projects and stormwater capture, and on the condition that it comes back to the board if anything changes.
To be clear, that is exactly captured by the board letter, so that is exactly what will happen. Thank you.
Director Blois?
Chair Record, excuse me, could you put me in the queue, please?
I just called on you, Director Blois.
Oh, well, thank you. My vote today is not just my personal opinion, which is based on lots of study of this project and great work by staff. But it's also in support, unanimous support of my colleagues on the CAIGUS board. And also note that every city council in our service area has unanimously supported the California State Water Fix. So I will be voting in favor, and I'm proud to be casting my vote and appreciate the opportunity to let me conference in remotely because this is an important issue for me and for CAIGUS in our service area. With that, I'll stop. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director Abdu?
Yes, I would like to be as articulate as Director Gold has been today, as well as John Murray. But I'm not going to give a speech. I am just going to say that I have similar concerns about this particular project, and I'm not ready to vote for it.
Director Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Similar to our director from Orange County, I too have had a family relationship with California Water for many generations. When my granddad signed a letter to call the cities of Southern California together to form the Colorado River Aqueduct Association, and the first 11 cities signed on, LA was a key part of that, and 10 other cities. 9 of us remain. We've been successful because we've worked together, we've listened to each other. We don't all necessarily have the same issues or the same cares, but we all, working together, provide a more reliable water supply for our communities, and that has continued to happen. My granddad then was at Department of Water and Power. He planned for the second branch of the LA Aqueduct, and then was vice chair of the Feather River Project, which now I'm going to cast my vote for him to finish his job.
Director McKinney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it's not going to be any surprise to anybody that I'm in support of the staff recommendation. I did want to note, I appreciated our general manager's prognosis of what might happen. I appreciate his wisdom on what the possible outcomes would be. I continue to hope that there might be another possible outcome with regard to the other contractors, which might be that if everybody else goes along, Westlands might reconsider its vote and decide that they'd like to keep farming. So that's a possibility. I am very happy that today we're going to vote on the staff recommendation and not rush into the arms of a potential smaller project. I think that I'm certainly, along with my colleagues who have expressed a support for working on that type of a project, if needs be, I think that that's a better option than not proceeding with a project. But I certainly see that as an inferior settlement, and I'm glad that we're not making that decision today. I view this, the Delta Fix, as has been commented today, as a climate change project. I've commented here before about my view that in terms of our addressing the uncertainties of our water supply, that climate change is very likely to have a significant effect on our ability to develop the kind of local supply projects that we're talking about here. I'm very supportive of conservation, recycling, groundwater cleanup, stormwater capture, and all those projects. I think you have to have water coming into the system to recycle water. I think you have to have storms to capture stormwater, and I don't think we can rely on those things. I think that we should do them, but it's part of a portfolio. I also think that climate change is going to significantly strain our Colorado River supply. That's why I'm very much in favor of our portfolio supply approach, our all of the above approach, and keeping our eyes on the ball of long-term reliability. I also worry that that if we don't build the project as it's described in our documents now, it's not just the supply that's affected. It can affect the ecological improvements that we expect to see in the Delta. To the extent that more contractors continue to try to pump from the south of the Delta, we're not going to realize the ecological benefits that we hope to achieve. I also think that there's a lot of uncertainty and concern about the cost of the project. I'm very comfortable with the cost projections that our staff has presented to us, but phasing the project will increase the total cost of the project. And so I hope we don't rush into that settlement. So I keep in mind that we've had a lot of historical development of projects in this state. I don't think there's anybody today looking out at those older water projects and saying, man, why did we build those so big? Not happening. So I'm very supportive of the staff recommendation. I hope we don't have to settle for something less. We can talk about it later if we need to. But I would suggest that we move forward. Thank you.
Director Vasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I represent the Central Basin Municipal Water District, and over the past probably 2 to 3 months, we've had an overwhelming number of residents coming before our board to express their support or opposition to this project. We've conducted our own analysis of the project, and our ratepayers will be impacted to the tune of $3 or 33 cents, depending on the area that they reside in. And our board overwhelmingly supported the 26% commitment to this project because it understands the importance of bringing imported water to our region. Central Basin, like many other water agencies throughout the region, have also embarked on a number of local resources projects, including recycled water. So we are doing our share to reduce our reliance on imported water in the region. However, at this point, we still rely on imported water, and so our board voted on that, and so I'll be here to cast both votes on behalf of the Central Basin. Unfortunately, my colleague here had a knee replacement surgery, so he won't be able to be here, but I'll be casting the vote on behalf of our board.
Thank you. Director Dick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Contrary to some of our colleagues, my grandparents did not vote for the canal. They were in Missouri. But I came out here in the Army, and I said I was coming back, and I did. When I did, I brought my wife and 2 children. Subsequently, I had a chance to try to make a modest contribution to our community, and as a result of that, I have the privilege of sitting here with you today. And I look at an organization that has a mission statement to provide reliable water. That's a bigger challenge than might be considered at first blush when you have some agencies that can roll on and roll off to the tune of 100,000 acre-feet a year. You've got to have a lot of excess capacity. You can't just plan for let's get by. You have to do like our people that were in this room and the room in Sunset before us, where you have to plan for abundance. You have to consider the fact that we have more people that need to be considered, and you're asking about the rates. Well, you know, that's kind of a retail rate issue, but we have that consideration too. And if you think it's tough to pay a water bill, wait till you have to pay a tough grocery bill because your groceries cost so much more because we can't get the water to grow the food. We talk about conservation and how we use the same amount of water today as we did umpteen years ago. And some of that, a lot of that is from conservation. And a lot of that might be code for the jobs we lost when the manufacturing left for a lot of reasons. Some of it maybe they couldn't get a supply of water, some of it other issues. That's not our job. Our job is to talk about water. And we should, I reiterate, plan for abundance, not subsistence. We have future generations. Our granddaughter, my granddaughter, deserves a reliable supply of water. I know, I'm a guest in her house tonight because I have been evacuated from our home. I'm glad we have water to fight, to use for fire suppression. I would hate to have to be standing there while that firefighter waits for some storm water to come along to put out this fire. Well, I say today, it's better to have and not need than need and not have. And I join my colleagues in voting in favor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Director Quinones.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank all the members of the public, the union members, the veterans, the citizens, and the ratepayers for their insights today. And I think we have an obligation to take into account the views and the impacts on moderate and low-income ratepayers. They're the ones who have to foot the bill on this. I joined all of my colleagues who are always focused on that. And I think we have a responsibility in that regard. And Director Pressman, Dr. Pressman, welcome. I promise you that every vote will not be as challenging and interesting as this one. And you'll see that your colleagues here take that phrase, environmentally and economically responsible ways, very seriously. And I do salute all of you for you're handling this in that way. And some of us will disagree. We're going to disagree today, but I think we have a duty to continue pressing forward. Today, I'm of the opinion that my colleagues, Director Gold and Director Murray, have the right view on this, and I'm hopeful that we'll come back in the near future with some other proposals in this regard. I think the issue of wetlands and the federal government contribution and all of that is significant, and we have an obligation to take that into account. So I thank you.
Director Martinez.
I don't mean to offend anyone here, especially my colleagues, but I think I am the youngest here on this board at age of 38, and youngest elected in the Santa Ana City Council, and we're a founding member. And when I decided to get on this board with the interest of my colleagues wanting to make sure that we had somebody that was elected to take full responsibility and accountability for the decisions that we were going to be making as it pertains to water issues and the future for Santa Ana, and what does that mean for our residents, I will be the first to tell you that the decision that is being made here is one that is not only historic, but is forward-thinking. And it's unfortunate that we all can't, but when I look at democracy, we all have our own differences of opinion, and we're all going to vote the way we vote. But I think it comes with respect. And so it's unfortunate that we don't have our brothers and sisters, but the majority from Los Angeles, that will be casting a vote here, because when I look at the Metropolitan Water District, I look at it as a family. And when we look at water, We cannot look at it just from a San Diego perspective or a Los Angeles perspective or just a Santa Ana perspective, but for the entire region and the 19 million people that we represent. And so this decision here, and my colleagues, of course, passed a resolution in support of moving the water fix forward. But I can tell you that what our preferred future is not for today, it's for many generations to come. And I will possibly, hopefully, God will allow me to be here in the next 15 to 20 years, 30 hopefully, that I will be able to tell my nieces, my nephews, that the decision that was made here today was not for the folks of today, but for them. And I think it's important for us to understand that, because there have been many times that we have casted votes based on today and not tomorrow. And so it's with great pleasure to tell you that I'm supportive, but I hope that moving forward, if something does change, that we're able to bring everyone to the table and have agreement, because it's unfortunate where we have two of the biggest cities that represent the Metropolitan Water District are not really essentially on board. That sends a message that we're not essentially a family when it comes to this issue, which is probably the most important decision and vote that we will make in our lifetime that we're here on this board, because it really matters. And so I just hope that as we cast this vote, that we will continue to strive to work together. And so with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Lewinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you said you're not taking any substitute motions. The motion that's on the floor right now, as I read it, has three distinct parts. There's the part about the CEQA adoption. There's the part about authorizing Metropolitan's 25.9% share of the overall costs. And there's the part about authorizing the general manager to execute agreements. Would you consider bifurcating the motion and voting on each of those three items separately?
It's up to the maker of the motion, but I said I won't accept substitutes, so
this is not a substitute.
I'm not gonna accept amendments either. If you can vote no, and we'll take it up again if this doesn't pass.
I'm trying to figure out a way, Mr. Chairman, where we could vote yes on something.
I appreciate that, Keith. I really do. I want to assist you in that, but I
I'd
can't do it on this one.
I'd love to be able to vote yes on a major part of this item, but the way you've bundled it, I can't.
Did you say bundled or bungled?
Bundled.
Okay.
So if that's your decision, that's your decision. I'm like Director Hogan, I'm rather disappointed that we don't follow Robert's Rules of Order, but so be it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Trevino. Did you want to call for the question? There's one more person, if with your permission, would like to talk. Director Cordero, is that okay? And then we'll have the vote. I thought Trevino called for the question.
No, it was Mr. Font.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Director Trevino.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to real quickly echo what my colleague, Director Martinez from Santa Ana said. Yeah, this vote that we're taking here, the vote is not for ourselves today. It's a historic vote. We're taking this vote for future generations, for our children, our grandchildren, who will say that we believed in their future, believed in their ability to be able to live the dream, as somebody said from the union, my brother from the union would have said. And we at Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District took this very seriously. We, like Central Basin, have many different programs, wastewater capture, recycling. We're doing all the things that we should be doing. But there's times to also honor the people that started the State Water Project, whose vision was reliability, whose vision was that we would have an abundant supply of water for Southern California. And by supporting this motion and supporting what Metropolitan is proposing, we honor those people. We honor the people that had the vision to do something for the greater good of California. And I think this is an extremely important vote to take, and that's why Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District supports the water fix. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Can I allow one more director to speak before we, no? Okay. Then let's vote. My apologies, Director Cordero.
Mr. Chair, we do have one other.
Director Cordero would like to speak.
I think it was not working.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Record. I actually was feeling pretty good about speaking until I realized that I'm old enough to be Director Martinez's mother. Kind of threw me there for a minute. As your newest, I was going to say one of your newest board members, and now we have a new director, welcome. And having been in this place yourselves, you know how much there is to learn about the issues that we have to deal with that not only represent our agencies, but that meet the responsibility to our district here and also to the region as a whole. Needless to say, coming on this board about exactly a year ago now, I came at a time where we faced this major commitment to the State Water Project, and it didn't leave me any option but to hit the ground running. I've not taken this lightly. It's been on my mind. I actually had a dream about the vote 2 nights ago. I've listened intently. I've read, and I've done my best to listen to our stakeholders, who many of them were very passionate. My background is in community outreach, and that's very important to me. And I did listen to you, the things that people have given me and the things that I've downloaded, I've read on both sides. So thank you very much for that. In Long Beach, we've done a good job of diversifying our own water resources. We have for many years delivered recycled water to many parts of our cities, and we've worked with our local groundwater managers to maximize those groundwater supplies as well, and we've been highly regarded in our conservation efforts. I have to thank the staff for the good work that they have done in supplying this, and I also have to thank my colleagues for the input that they've given me. A very wise man gave me some good advice, who knows about this district, and he said to me when I first came on, he said, do 2 things: listen for the first year and create relationships, and I hope I've done that, and you have supplied me with a lot of good information. Not all of you have agreed, and I appreciated that as well. We favor this considered well step within the parameters specified in the staff recommendation, and I look forward to voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as is my custom, I usually make a long speech before we have a vote, but since we have a call for the question, I'm going to forego that. I don't think this is the last vote on this subject, and I just really appreciate everyone's involvement and engagement in this. Please vote.
Director Blois, please state your vote.
It is my pleasure to cast an affirmative vote for Arcagus Water District. I vote yes.
Chairman Record, the motion has passed.
Thank you.
Stop the tunnel boondoggle.
Item 9 is update on conservation. We're going to forego that. Other matters have been withdrawn. I have no follow-up items. Any future agenda items? Thank you again for your participation, and we are adjourned.